Presented by Horns and Hooves Entertainment, you're watching Bob Hansen, Sean O'Malley, Rob Hazu, Tom Wuchak, and Adam Fitzgerald. You still up? Live. It's Buffalo After Dark. Welcome to Buffalo After Dark, everybody. It is January 13th, and we've got a good crew here tonight. So, of course, our usual, of course, on time, we got Bob here in the corner. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Hockey's back.
Yes, we'll talk about that later. Then we also got Sean back in the house here after being gone last week. How's it going?
Doing good, man. Bills are moving on. I'm happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're talking about that today. All right, Luffy, how much weed have you had today?
Not enough yet, but again, I'll concur with Bobby in saying.
Oh, it's so nice to queef you.
Right.
Oh,
Right. I was gonna say, what'd you smoke up earlier?
You know what? I had a little bit of this good sativa weed that I concocted myself. It was good. It was good.
Oh yeah, one of the plants you're allowed to legally have in Canada.
I can have 4, and I can veg 4, and I can grow 4. So I can have 8 plants, and just fucking grow this shit that stuff. Yeah, it's great.
And then actually, it's kind of funny you mentioned that too, because apparently, like right here in Buffalo, there was like this one guy who got stopped at the bridge for bringing 30 hockey bags full of weed into the U.S.
Boy, isn't that the most Canadian thing you ever heard, though? Bringing hockey bags.
I know, right? He like brought actual hockey bags over, and he got busted at the border. I'm like, dude, I'll give him props for the hockey bags.
Yeah, like, hey, dude, what do you got in the bag? No, just a bunch of hockey pucks. No,
Yeah.
no big deal.
Yep, and then watch, you got like the German Shepherd dog going, it's like getting that hit on the car.
It's like, what is it, boy? What is it? What do you need?
Yeah, it's like, what'd you find? It's like, yeah, it's good boy, and then you recover like 30 pounds of weed or whatever the hell it was.
He's like, that's my fucking weed. Go get your own.
Yeah, the dog's like, it's like ends up getting a little bit more.
Who wouldn't want a good round of weed? Seriously. I mean, imagine in that shit with some paper or whatever it is that you wrap it in, and you just get a lighter, and you just smoke a joint, and then it's like you're set for the night once you finally just inhale it into your body, and it's like,
Bobby, I love how you fucking act like you know what inhaling weed is.
yeah, he's like, done it, you fucking nimwit.
Oh,
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've smoked weed before.
You haven't done what I've done, but I can guarantee you.
I've done it one time, and I've done it the other time.
You know what? You're so unoriginal, bud. If I give you one dab of what I have, you'd be asleep for like 4 days.
Yeah, I'd probably be asleep for like 4 hours, 3 hours, depending on my nap.
No, you'd be like comatose for like fucking a week.
That way you could live up to the motto, I smoke during my nap.
Oh my god. Oh man.
You ever see those
Bobby.
I gave you, ma'am, I'm talking at the moment. You ever see those commercials when you were like 15 years younger or whatever, when you're like your teenagers, like in the early 2000s, and it was about secondhand smoking, and then somebody would say, like one little kid would say, be like, I smoke when I'm coloring. I'm smoked when I'm eating cookies. And then one kid says, I smoke during my nap.
Oh jeez.
Bobby, can you please shut the fuck up so we can get out with this?
We're having a little fun. Relax.
All right. And also joining us for fun and festivities tonight, Broviat Union sports creator Ryan Coggill, show contributor. How you doing?
Well, I was doing good because Broviat Union announced all of the podcasts and shows yesterday. And then today I woke up and realized that the poverty franchise, the Buffalo Sabres, start playing hockey tomorrow. And so I get to hate watch 56 games this season.
Yeah. And actually, it's funny you mention that too, because I mean, there's probably going to be some episodes that we'll do after games, or we may even go live at some point after games, and who knows, maybe we'll bring back something like after the horn again, or something like that, like we used to do. Who knows? But I remember when we did that, and then of course, let's see, notable moments: Bobby and the bullhorn after the post game a few times, like we did back in the classic 365 days.
Oh my God, I miss those days.
Yeah. You should bring out the bullhorn one of these days on the show, just for a fun of it, for old times.
Don't encourage him.
I wouldn't mind, because then by that point I would piss off Adam. But the problem is, it's not as fun when they're not playing the Leafs. So that way we get to watch the Sabres kick their ass 3 times a year at home in Buffalo.
Or like the last time I went to a Leafs game and ended up seeing, or here in Buffalo, and ended up seeing like about 15 people ejected and one person with a broken face.
Broken face. That's sad.
Hey, Bobby, just have fun like feeding the bottom this year.
Dude, you're losing to the half, so zip it.
Look, dude, I'm just saying, have fun feeding the bottom of the league.
Well, you and I were talking the other day, and you said to me that the Sabres could at least make a competitive shot to make the playoffs. So
That's a long shot, though.
you never know. I mean, granted,
A long,
children. See, it's 2-1 Canadians with 14 minutes in the second.
Long shot. A very long shot for the Sabres to make the playoffs.
Well, nobody thought the Dallas Stars would make this cup final. Okay, so take it for what it's worth.
Dallas is the better team, though. A lot better team.
Oh, for fuck's sake, we're not doing this, are we?
Oh God. Well, we'll have plenty of time to actually talk about the Sabres season coming up, and we'll definitely talk about NHL. But first thing we'll do, let's go right into the hot box and let's talk about the win that got us past the wild card round. And of course, and I'm hoping Trevor will actually jump on, because I want to talk about this with how we ended up somehow surviving the Colts. And the first thing I want to bring up, that play that was not ruled a fumble.
Oh,
How was that not ruled a fumble?
Oh my gosh!
I will tell you.
Clear as day.
I will tell you, I did a pregame with Trevor, and then I did a postgame with him on the Hauer Hour, and even he said that is most definitely a fumble. Like, and nobody on either side, nobody on either team, nobody anywhere else in the NFL outside of that ref says that is not a fumble.
Oh
if you listen to all the announcers, and the analysts, they all said like that's literally a fumble.
Right.
And when I was watching, I was like, me and Tom were watching actually, and I was like, you know what?
That's clear as day. It's a fumble.
That's clear that the guy literally, it was a fumble. It was.
Yeah, he was getting back up.
That too is. I was supposed to watch that play with you guys, but then all of a sudden my Wi-Fi went to shit around the time the game was just about to end. And then all of a sudden I'm looking at the screen and my computer's completely frozen. And I'm just like, fuck, I'm missing everything with these guys. So I said that I'm going to try to reboot it as fast as I could. And then around that time this happened is when the fumble happened. And the last like 2 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. And it was just a complete clusterfuck for me to be with you guys at that moment. I was just like so upset that I wasn't able to be there for you guys.
If his knee lifted at any point off the ground, which it did, clearly, it should have been called a fumble. When Buffalo covered the ball, it should have been a fumble.
Listen, if that man's knee, if Zach Pascal's knee, that's the wide receiver for the Colts that had that ball, if his knee was on the ground at the angle that his leg was, he would have been being carted off the field because his leg would be snapped in half.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. As soon as he made the attempt to get up, that was he wasn't even on the ground. He was still playing. So when he fumbled the ball, it should have been a fumble.
I mean, the man's literally in a squat. He's not kneeling. He is in a full-on squat. The man's doing squats out there on the field. Like, his knees were absolutely up.
He was buckled on the fucking ground. He should have just literally laid down. Just said, go. He would have caught the ball, and it didn't matter, though, because they fucking ruled that it wasn't a fumble.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it extended the game for all of maybe less than 30 seconds, but still, I mean, it's like, come on, ref. I mean, seriously, It is a fumble. It's not like Mark Sanchez with the ass fumble that we had. It was a fumble. It was a clear thing.
Yeah, a clear
That
cut fumble.
could have
And
made the difference.
speaking of which, I just found an article on WIVB's website. I don't know if you can, but this is funny, man.
Yeah, go for it.
Local eye care provider offers LASIK to referee after controversial call during Bills game.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw that locally. Wasn't it like Ficta, Endel, and Elmer? I mean, we don't endorse any businesses, but I mean, Ficta, Endel, and Elmer. I mean, they're actually one of the two major LASIK places here in the Buffalo area. I mean, they're good. I mean, I know people have used them before. I mean, I personally, I go to Atwall and I've used them for the last several years. I mean, they're the other LASIK provider. They're great. So both places are good. But yeah, I saw it. They were like, yeah, we'd like to offer free LASIK to the ref.
That's such a slap in the face to the ref. He's probably like, what the fuck? Like,
I know, right? I mean, I was looking at that. I'm like, that was actually a great point that you brought up. It was just hilarious.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I saw the article the other day, but I was like, wow, man. I couldn't stop laughing, man. Oh.
Are you surprised by any of this with them doing that with LASIK? It's basically saying you're an asshole and you're dumb at your job. We're gonna offer you some LASIK, and that's just like, oh, you didn't do anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And yet everybody across the country saw it, and they were like, that's a fumble, and we all saw it.
Right. Exactly. In fact, what I'd like to do is I actually have that article up right now. Here it is. This is what Sean, this is what you saw. Local eye care provider offers free LASIK to referee after controversial call during the Bills game.
Oh
man.
that was too funny, man.
Yep.
That's cool.
So then,
Wow.
so the digital reporter Evan Anstey actually mentioned, okay, we've all seen some poor calls in Bills games this season, and one in particular from Saturday's showdown with the Colts stands out. As a result of it, an eye care center with locations in Amherst and Niagara Falls says it's offering a free LASIK procedure to one of the referees, and they posted the message on their own Facebook page after the game. It says, "We are offering free LASIK to this NFL ref Alberto Riveron in charge of video review at the Bills game today. Clearly, he is not seeing so well."
It's so obvious. It is so obvious.
Oh.
That was great.
Yeah,
That was probably one of the best things that we've seen in a while. But, yeah. But on the bright side, though, the Bills did get the win. Allen went 26 of 35 for 324 in the air, 2 touchdowns, and then he ended up having 54 yards on the ground with a touchdown. And here's the thing. He was the leading rusher of the Bills again at 4.9 yards a carry.
Oh, goody.
And yet, Zach Moss, who's out the rest of the playoffs, 7 carries, 21 yards for 3 yards a carry. Singletary with 3 carries, 21 yards, 7 yards a carry. And that actually goes into the next thing. So the Bills have decided to sign some free agents this past week. And of course, the first one that we ended up signing was Kenny Stills. Great insurance policy as a wide receiver. And then yesterday it was noted Devontae Freeman, a free agent running back out of Atlanta, is on the club now.
Can I
awesome,
say though, as being the outsider, as being like the one, I'm an Allen fan. I love Allen. But can I just say that you cannot beat the Ravens playing the game that you guys played? I mean, in defensive aspect.
Yeah. That
the way you guys
cannot
beat the fucking Ravens the way you play against the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
On the run game, I agree with Adam because the Ravens, and you know what's really interesting? I want to bring this up to you guys because I was on Buffalo Fanatics earlier today. I was on their webpage, and all of a sudden I get the league rankings here, and I want to read this to you because there were some stats on here I was surprised by, and there was one that made me laugh in particular. But I'll save it for last. So you ready for this? And this is why, because I was talking to Adam yesterday about this leading up to the game, and he's like, I think Buffalo can win, but you can't play like you did against Indianapolis. And I said, you know what? Leading up to that game, I said that the Colts, I knew they were going to be a challenge, and I knew that they were coming in. They weren't going to make it easy, as I expected. And all of a sudden, they did. But I'm actually glad that they played like that because it fully exposed Buffalo's run game. It exposes that they have some things to work on going into the game, which leads to my point here. In terms of offense, defense, passing, and rushing, these are the rankings. In terms of offense, the Bills are ranked second in the league in offense, and the Ravens are ranked 19th. And then on defense, the Ravens are ranked 7th, and the Bills are ranked 14th. And then in rushing, the Ravens are ranked first. Because you have to keep in mind, this stat is coming from Lamar Jackson, Gus Edwards, and J.K. Dobbins. And, of course, Mark Ingram, but he's out of the equation at this point. And the Bills are ranked 20th in rushing. But the stat that made me really funny for me is the passing stats. The Bills are ranked 3rd in passing. Guess where the Ravens are? I'm going to give you guys a quick trivia game. Where do you guys think the Ravens are ranked in passing?
I'll say 15.
15th? Okay. What about you, Ryan?
I'm gonna go with they're probably right below us.
Sean?
I kind of already saw it for myself, so I'm not going to say it.
Okay. And what about you, Tom?
I'm thinking probably like middle of the pack, like around 16.
All right. Final answers?
15th.
Yeah,
All right.
16th.
All right. The answer is, in terms of passing, the Bills are ranked 3rd. The Ravens, 32nd.
Wow.
Oh.
But here's the thing, though. The thing is, though, you can laugh all you want and say passing for them is terrible, which it is. But at the same time, if you can't shut down their fucking run game and their defense, it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, I know that. I mean, I'm not taking them lightly as far as defense and the running game goes. All I'm saying is that if they could contain the run game and can contain Lamar Jackson's mobility, and they have to force him to pass, that's going to be a huge advantage for Buffalo. So if Buffalo's going to be Baltimore, they have to go in the air.
You watched the game I watched, right, against the Colts.
Right.
And they couldn't contain Taylor whatsoever at all.
Yeah, I know that. I'm saying in particular, but I'm basically just recalling from last year when they played the Ravens in Buffalo. The Ravens had all the answers with Josh Allen last year. And there's something else I want to bring up too, as far as Josh Allen, because Adam and I were talking about this as well, is that we were talking about the game leading up to the defense. And I found this very interesting stat, and I saw this, and I was so happy because Adam and I were talking about this, and he was talking about with the Ravens defense of how they were going to able to get to Josh Allen. And this is what I read. And this is from Pro Football Focus. Josh Allen versus the blitz. He's ranked first with 19 touchdowns. He's ranked first with 1,850 yards in passing, and he's also ranked 3rd in the league with 13 big-time throws. And the Ravens are number 1 in the league with heavy team blitzing, which is at 30%. So if you're going to blitz Josh Allen, good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but plus, you have to look at the fact that the Ravens and the Colts play a similar game. They play the whole fucking run game, and so you have Josh Allen in the pocket. Josh Allen likes to leave his pocket. If the defense can't fucking contain the rush off their defensive end, they have to solve it. If they don't, then it's not going to work.
So here's what I have to say. I honest to God, I'll start off with something that hasn't been totally popular. I think the Colts were probably the toughest team that we could have faced in the AFC and will face going forward.
I literally said that.
Okay, then dope, awesome. Because when you're looking at all 4 phases of the game, when you're looking at offense, defense, special teams, and coaching, we won against the Colts because of coaching. Because Frank Reich has the ability to outsmart himself. Buffalo and Indianapolis have the 2 best all-around special teams units in the entire NFL right now, between punting, kicking, and the ability to return. I mean, we saw it on display in the wild card game. That being said, the issue with Buffalo's run game, I don't necessarily know was exposed against the Colts. I mean, we've known all season. We've gotten better against the run steadily throughout the season, more so towards the ends, or towards the end of the season. But we still have issues. That being said, there isn't a team that has a run game like the Colts outside of Tennessee and,
No.
and outside of Derrick Henry.
No, it doesn't. But at the same time, from what I seen, it was like, Philip Rivers is a washed up quarterback, and at times he made Buffalo look like a fucking tool.
I don't
Wide
think
wide
Rivers is a washed up quarterback. I think that he's not a playoff quarterback by any means. He gets frantic when he gets down by a couple of points. But I just wanted to point this out. There are 4 players. So the game's on Saturday, which basically means in the NFL, whatever day it is, you're up a day. So today's Wednesday, which actually means in the NFL it's Thursday.
Yeah.
There are 4 players that are crucial to both the offense and the defense of the Ravens that were listed as did not participate today. And that's Clay Campbell, defensive end, Mark Ingram, the running back, linebacker Matthew Judon, and cornerback Marcus Peters.
That's
All of them
Yeah.
did not participate.
Well, here's my thing. Here's the thing. If you look at the Bills injury report, the Bills did a similar thing. Just from looking at it, I firmly think the Ravens are trying to rest these guys up leading up to the game. And that's what every team does. They tried to say, oh, this player got injured. And then everyone's like, oh, he's going to play regardless. So
2 of them are on injured reserve.
2 of them on the Ravens?
So obviously,
2 on the Ravens or on the Bills?
On the Ravens. Give me a sec.
Who?
It's on IR.
Who's on IR?
Yeah. I have to go back to it because I closed out. And then the other 2 are illness and back. So Clay Campbell and Mark Ingram are both on IR. Judon has an illness, and Peters is out, did not participate because of his back. And then they have a tackle, DJ Fluker, who was a limited participant because of his knee. And that was their injury report. Now, it is Wednesday, but in the NFL, it's actually Thursday. And you're only 2 days again, or essentially you're 2 days away from your game because you're going to be traveling probably that day before, or because the game's later now, they may travel early up that morning. So
and you're telling me that Calais Campbell and Mark Ingram on injury reserve. So if they're on IR, they can't play.
I mean, I don't know how. I don't pay attention to the Ravens, so I have no idea how long they've been on IR.
Fair enough.
So they could very well be coming out of IR, or they could be in the middle of it, or they could have just been on it. But that being said, the only issue that I see with the Ravens is, if you force pressure onto, like Bobby, I do agree with you. If you force, if you force Lamar Jackson to wait for plays to develop downfield and throw, I think that gives us our best chance because I trust Taron Johnson and Hyde and Poyer and Tre'Davious downfield. But if you put pressure on Lamar Jackson, he's going to scramble out of the pocket and attempt to run, and you don't want him to run. But if you don't bring pressure and Buffalo plays zone defense, you also still give him the opportunity to run. But it's not like, even though the Ravens are last in the NFL in passing, it doesn't mean that he's still not going to throw some touchdowns and throw for big plays downfield. So it's a very dangerous game that we're playing. But that being said, we've also seen that the Ravens have been inconsistent throughout the entire year. I mean, they only just got good a couple of weeks back. Before then, a lot of people thought that they were going to fall out of the playoff conversation, and then they ended up coming back into the playoff conversation with the last few weeks of the year. So it's just, are we going to get a good Ravens team, or are we going to get a bad Ravens team? And that's just what the question. I mean,
they're going to bring their best.
Oh yeah.
Honestly,
I can't see him like throwing upfield. He's not a quarterback that throws fucking 70 yards at the fucking field. He's not a guy that does that.
Yeah.
So he's gonna throw a quick pick out the fucking middle, or he's gonna fucking run the ball. That's what he does.
Yeah. And again, that's the conundrum with the Ravens is if you bring pressure, he's gonna scramble and try and make a play happen. But if you don't bring pressure, he also then has the opportunity in the opening to scramble. And we've seen that happen how many times, even against non-mobile quarterbacks throughout the season, where they've attempted to scramble against us because we play a zone defense. So
a handful of times.
The thing is, is that in the last game, I'll be honest, I'll be like, again, I'm the outsider, but like, if you seen like most of the plays that Philip Rivers had fucking room and he shot up the fucking field open, wide open, there was no pressure on him. There was no pressure in the pocket whatsoever.
Mhm.
None. He had like fucking 5 to 6 seconds to do whatever he wanted.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that happens from time to time, but we've also seen, again, you can counter the other side to it, is we've seen how many times we bring 5 or 6 guys to the quarterback, and then there's not enough guys to cover when they toss it to a running back, or they toss it, they do a little toss off to a wide receiver not that far downfield, and they end up getting that first down. They end up converting that third or that fourth into a first. So it's just, I mean, it's football. So there's nothing that says like, hey, if they do this, this is what's going to happen. And I feel like that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to theorize like Murphy's Law. We're trying to go through Murphy's Law. Like everything bad that can happen, we're trying to, and that's just not what it is with football.
Dude, literally, I was watching the game with Bobby, and I literally called it every time they went to third down, and then he threw. And every time they threw, there was a wide receiver open every time for Rivers. Every time. And I was like, hey, Bobby, watch this because they're going to get 3rd and 1 or
Yeah.
3rd and 3, and they're going to fucking throw it. And Buffalo never, ever caught on. Ever.
And it's interesting because every time he called something, whether it's a play during the game, whether it's a pass or a run, he's also good at predicting who could win a game. Because he predicted Buffalo. He predicted, I think you said the Rams last week. And you also said the Bucs, which everybody would say. And then you said the Saints. And then you said a few handful of things were going to happen. And you called it.
I think he predicted Cleveland also in that upset.
I think he did. And now that I'm thinking about it, I said Pittsburgh was going to win.
Right. Never underestimate the underdog. And that underdog was the Browns.
Yeah, speaking of which, man, holy crap, that first quarter of the game.
That was
God.
What?
That's a straight up ass kicking
Oh, man.
of epic proportions.
What the fuck happened to them?
I kind of knew.
At the end of one.
I kind of knew it was going to happen though, because after the first fucking play, I was like, "They're fucking going for it." And Pittsburgh,
yeah, Pouncey ends up fumbling. Bad snap, and then basically what happens is the ball's recovered in the end zone for 6.
Dude, and then they didn't even have their head coach in the sidelines, man, because of COVID.
Right.
It didn't have and it wasn't just the head coach. There was multiple coaches that were out, so everybody had to move up.
dude,
I don't think the team even practiced during the week, did they?
No,
They didn't practice, and then on top of that, they had a couple of guys. They signed a bunch of guys like linemen, and one of their like 2nd or 3rd string guys ended up getting hurt, and literally a lineman that Baker Mayfield introduced himself to like 20 minutes before the game. I think his name was Hans or something like that. Ended up coming in and played fantastic. So he's probably going to get a shot with the Browns going forward. But I mean, they're literally playing with the majority of their coaches gone, with guys that they signed like a day or two before the game coming in, that most of the players didn't even know who they were, and they put that on them. And to Bobby's question, what happened to them is the Steelers culture, which everybody has touted for years and years and years, ended up being detrimental to them in the long run.
Well,
because they have
that's the reason I said like at this, like after Bobby said like, oh, Pittsburgh won the division and whatever else, I'm just like, man, their season has been literally nothing but beating mediocre teams, and they're not consistent whatsoever. So I was like, you know what? I'll literally call them at the fact to say that the fucking Browns will beat them, just in the fact of having a heart. They have a bigger heart than Big Ben and the fucking Steelers.
And actually, there's some developing news I want to talk about in a few moments. But how about Chubb in that run game?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, the Browns are just. Here's the thing: the Browns are an absolutely immaculate team. But that being said, like I was saying, the culture in Pittsburgh was the most detrimental to them. Again, I went to college in Pennsylvania. All my friends are pretty much Steelers fans, and all they talk about all the time, this is no disrespect to them, is, oh, like it's a family culture, like all the players are part of the family. And I'm like, hey, that's great. The Bills are too. But if you're being detrimental to the team, you're getting cut. Like that doesn't like they're not doing it in a bad way. Ben should have retired 4 years ago. They
Right.
don't have any backup quarterbacks. They don't have a run game, and most of their wide receivers aren't that good. Juju was only good in the slot because he's a slot receiver, and everybody was too busy covering AB. They don't have any tight ends. Most of their offensive line is old veteran players that keep making mistakes. Like we saw Villanueva not covering. We saw Pouncey's missed snap.
Yep.
And most of they have a decent defense. I mean, Pittsburgh always has a decent defense, and they have some young players now, but they have to literally. I don't know if they need to go as far as some people saying that they need to do a complete rebuild, like get rid of Tomlin. I don't think that they necessarily need to get rid of Tomlin. I think he's a fantastic coach, but they need to start getting rid of a lot of players. They need to get rid of all their quarterbacks, all their running backs. Let Juju go. Just let him go. He's clearly not fantastic for this team culture-wise because the Juju curse is now real. And then go bring some new blood in, some younger blood, and also pay Ben to retire. Go get Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of the injury report too, Calais Campbell and Mark Ingram did not practice. They are on injured reserve, so they are not going to be going Saturday, most likely.
Oh my God! But there's one other problem. They still have Yannick Ngakoue. I completely forgot about him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the least of your fucking worries.
Are you kidding? He's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Him and Calais Campbell played together in Jacksonville. They're that good together. And bring it to Adam's point, because he said the Steelers played mediocre teams. I mean, granted, I would make the same argument for the Ravens. The Ravens had a cupcake schedule as well. I mean, if you look at Buffalo,
Chiefs
they
also did.
had a tougher schedule. The Ravens had like the 9th easiest schedule, and the Bills had like the 9th toughest schedule, somewhere in that range as well. So the Ravens are in a similar path than the Steelers, but the Steelers had easier teams to beat. Baltimore had some challenges, but they were able to overcome those opponents and still were able to win those games. So,
I mean, if we're talking about that too, you have to include the fact that the Chiefs also had a super easy strength of schedule as well.
right, come on, they're the
They're
defending
struggling.
champions, obviously. I mean,
Here's the thing, though. The thing is that, yeah, the fucking Chiefs had an easy schedule, but like they have Patrick Mahomes for one. They have, what's his name?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I mean, they still struggled in games that they absolutely should. I mean, they literally almost lost to the Falcons.
Yeah, I mean,
If I
till the
was
last
like,
second.
Right.
if I was to say, hey, you know what, who will win between the Chiefs and the Bills? You know, I'd pick fucking the Bills all day. But like, at the same time, there's so many fucking things, and it's like any team, you can't be perfect. But I can guarantee you, when they play the Ravens are going to be watching fucking Stephon Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be watching fucking Singletary. Players like that are going to watch, right? Because they know their offense is nothing compared to Buffalo. So they're going to have to watch these players. But at the same time, Buffalo has to step up their fucking defense. Their defense is literally, go 13-3, and then go up against the Colts, which were probably the best team they would have played in the playoffs, either round. I don't care what anybody says.
yeah, and I was going to say too, like I don't care that Mark Ingram's not going to be in the game this Saturday. Like we cannot take any chances, all right? Especially how our run defense struggled against the Colts. Like, and speaking of which, like, what happened to our run defense anyway in the last 3 games of the regular season? Like,
It went downhill.
It struggled all season because Star Lotulelei wasn't there, and it exposed a massive hole which is why I think in the first round the Bills are honestly probably going to go defensive and try and find a guy to back up Star in case COVID is a factor in 2022 and Star isn't there, or in case something happens where he gets hurt.
Yeah,
or just flat out retires.
Yeah, they got to focus on for the draft. They got to focus on the run defense, like big time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, surprise your fucking opponent, man. The Bills aren't known for the fucking run game, so like, I don't know, slip in a couple plays to be like, hey, you know what, run game up the fucking middle or something. In that last game, I didn't see the Bills literally one play. I saw that the Bills actually ran it for like first down. One play.
Yeah, Singletary. I mean, Singletary got on the outside a couple of times for some pretty good gains, but they've been using the run game as more of like, oh, we're gonna try and, we're an inch away from the down marker. Like we're gonna try and convert.
Fucking run it in.
Yeah, it's just I also since last year's playoff game in Houston, for some reason we've been using the running backs in like a flipped position. Like we've been sending Singletary up the middle, and then it was sending Gore to the outside. But now we've been sending Moss to the outside. It's like, well, Moss is the middle guy. Singletary should be the outside guy. I don't know why we're not using them like that, because we used Singletary on the outside, and the guy started getting yards.
Right.
I don't know why it's been flipped, because the whole point of drafting Singletary and then getting Gore and then drafting Moss when you lost Gore was to do exactly that. Hey, look who it is.
And we have our resident Colts fan, Trevor Howard of the Howard Hour podcast. How's it going?
What up, peeps? How we doing?
Hey, what's up?
Hey,
man?
I wanted to get
All
you
right.
down too, 'cause
It's been a hot second since you and I talked.
Yeah, it has been, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've only talked a couple times in the last few days.
Trevor, I'd like to say, you know what? The Colts were beasts. They did what they could, man. Could
Yeah.
have won that game at any second.
Mhm.
Yep. I mean, it was close the whole way through. It was just I was saying before, the Colts were like just a few plays away, like a few good plays away that they missed from winning that game, stealing a win. Like going for it on that 4th and goal was what shot the momentum. They were up 10-7. They try to kick a field goal, or you kick a field goal there, it's 13-7. And then you're up by 6. Instead, you go for it and you throw this stupid, like, this dive play in the end zone on a corner route, which was a bad throw and also a bad drop by both the quarterback and receiver. I think that was what shot the momentum. But like overall, it was a pretty good game. And what I'm looking forward to now is the process of what the hell are the Colts going to do in the draft now? Are they going to trade up to get Wilson? Are they going to trade up to get Lance? Are they going to re-sign Rivers? Like, I'm completely moved on from that game, and now I'm just looking on to the draft.
I don't think Rivers looked that bad at all.
No, he had a couple bad throws here and there. Like the one in the end zone on the 4th and goal was a bad throw, and obviously the Hail Mary that didn't even go to the end zone. I still think he should have
try though. He had to fucking try it. He had no choice.
Oh,
yeah. I still think that you put Brissett on that Hail Mary play. He's got a stronger arm than Rivers. He has the ability to throw that in the middle of the end zone, and then there's your 50-50 ball right there. Right. I think you should have put Brissett in the game. He obviously has a stronger arm. He's much younger than Phillip Rivers. Just, get him in there, heave it down the field. All you need to do is heave it down the field, and then it's whoever's in there to perhaps catch the ball, whether it's Hilton or Pittman or Pascal or whoever was there, or a tight end. All you had to do was throw it to the end zone. Rivers threw it to maybe the 5, and it got knocked down. So, yeah, I mean, and then you got to take into account some of the special teams plays. Like, special teams was pretty good for the Colts all day, except for the missed field goal. The Colts punter was pinning them inside the 10, like maybe 4 or 5 times in that game.
Some good
and then
picks.
Forcing Josh Allen to go 95, 96 yards down the field. I mean, that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do to stop the Bills. But, like, guess what? The score was 27-24. You missed a 33-yard field goal. How much is a field goal worth?
Right.
3. You lost by 3.
Exactly. And here's another point that I could bring up also is at that one point in the game when Coach Reich ended up going for that 2-point conversion that he missed, you got to take the points because, in the playoffs, points are everything. So instead of taking the extra point and now instead of having 7, you're at 6, now you're creating yourself a little bit more of a hole there. And then the other play I look at is when McDermott called that timeout on Blankenship and then basically nailed him on the hard count for 5 yards, and there you go.
Yeah,
And then you got a whole fresh set of downs.
Definitely, and also looking at the Kimoko Toure play where he got jumped offside on that 4th down and was it 4th and 3 that Josh Allen did the hard count. Like you have to know that he's just trying to draw you offside and you're going to send the field goal unit out there. Instead, they went 96 yards on that drive, and they got whoever it was. I don't remember who it was. I think it was I think Josh Allen just snuck it in himself, but he ran it in for the touchdown. And you're looking at that point, you miss it on that 4th and goal when the Colts had the ball, whatever. Bills kick a field goal, it's 10-10 going into the halftime. It's a tie game going to half. Instead, it's 14-10, and then the Bills get the ball back. So the momentum is completely shifted from the Colts' favor to the Bills. But, I mean, I thought Bills were going to get like 35 plus points. I was right about the fact that the Colts were going to get 24. I thought my score prediction was 38-24 Bills, but that Colts defense in the second half was sort of holding it down, especially on that play where Josh Allen fumbled. That was the Colts' chance to pick it up and try to go for the win. But obviously it didn't happen, and I still don't know how nobody was there to pick that up, because you had Buckner back there and you had Autry back there, 2 guys that are like damn near 300 pounds. And then I think it was the Bills running back that picked it up, or was it Josh Allen that dove on it? I don't even remember.
I think it was Josh Allen who actually recovered it.
Yeah, he jumped back on the ball. Like, these are the opportunities that you are missing. Like, you're missing field goals, you're missing 4th and goals, you're missing 2-point conversions. You had a strip sack and you can't jump on the ball. Like, they were missing a bunch of key plays that were I think if 2 of those plays went the way that they did, it would at least go to overtime. Maybe even a Colts win, but I think it would at least go to overtime.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, they put up a hell of a fight in that game, because, I mean, I was thinking my own prediction, it was going to be a 7-point game, and it actually ended up being 3. But I was kind of thinking along the lines of either like something like I'm trying to think, it was either like a 28-21 or something along that line. And so, I mean, it was close, but I mean, they give them credit though. I mean, they put up a good fight. It was definitely a tough test. So
yeah, for sure.
The one thing I'll say is, like, Taylor's a fucking beast.
Yeah.
He made Buffalo
He is.
look like a bitch when he ran the fucking field.
Oh god.
Taylor's a beast, and Hines was kind of carving him up. He got like 6 carries for 75 yards, and then they just stopped giving him the ball. It was just unbelievable. The performance the play calling that I saw from Frank Reich on last Saturday was just the reason why the Colts are losing these winnable games. Like, you go back and look at the games that they've lost in their schedule, losing to Baltimore because they stopped giving the ball to Taylor. He fumbles the ball once. It goes back for a touchdown in that game. They just bench him. And then Hines can't get separation. Wilkins can't get separation. That's the reason you lose that game. Plus awful officiating. That Marcus Peters interception, I still haven't gotten over that yet. That Steelers game, you're up 24-7 and you're throwing the ball. Like, you got to run. Frank Reich is the reason why this team is not 13-3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually, it's interesting you mentioned the Steelers right now, because there's some developing news out of Pittsburgh, and apparently right now, Roethlisberger is not guaranteed to be back next year. So NFL.com is reporting right now that with Roethlisberger being out from he had the elbow injury, and they were talking about how they started 11-0 to lose the last 5 out of the 6 games, and then they just straight up said it was an embarrassing loss to the Browns, which it was. Mike Tomlin actually ended up going on record today, and he basically said that there was a high level of concern regarding Roethlisberger's health and the ability coming into 2020, but he also did not rule out the possibility that Roethlisberger will be back. But on the other hand, here's what his stats were. So through week 9, he ended up being at 68% completions, and he had 18 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Now, what happened is then after that, he ended up dropping down to 63.4%, and he basically looked like crap. So, I mean, right now they're saying that there's going to be some changes, and the other thing that Pittsburgh's dealing with right now is a lot of problems with the cap. I mean, they're in cap hell right now. So, what Tomlin looks like he's saying is that there is a possibility they could blow up the team and rebuild.
Well, they're not going to have a choice by this point. Now, here's something interesting I want to talk about real quick as far as the Steelers are concerned. Ever since that game, there's been a lot of controversy about the team. And one thing I heard, and I think he deserves it to be honest with you, is there's been a lot of talk that if things are going down the trend of where it's going now as far as being an incompetent shithole, there's a possibility the Steelers could fire Mike Tomlin as early as next year if things don't go the direction they're going. And this is just from like 12 years or 14 years, whatever the number it is, that he's been the coach.
7 or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Big Ben needs to call it a fucking day, man.
he's been there since Cowher left, I think.
Yeah, they've only had the Steelers have only had 3 head coaches in their entire history. So the front office is not bad at picking coaches in picking GMs.
They keep them for a long time.
And so here's my thing. I'll go back to what I said before. A lot of people are saying that Tomlin needs to go because it's a culture issue. And I do agree that it's a culture issue, but I don't think it's Tomlin's fault by any means. You're dealing with the aftermath of AB, the aftermath of Bell. Then the AB thing still gets stuck to Pittsburgh because he rejects Buffalo and then goes to Oakland and then the Patriots and then a whole bunch of other crap. What needs to happen, I think that you can honestly keep Tomlin. I think Tomlin is an excellent coach. I think it's been proven that he's an excellent coach. What needs to happen is you should have forced Big Ben to retire 4 years ago or traded him. Yep. Again, it goes back to that culture issue of, well, this is a family franchise and a family culture. And again, I think Buffalo is also a family culture, but we cut people that are not or that are detrimental to the team.
Well, here's the argument. When you say cultural family, there's a difference between Pittsburgh and Buffalo. Buffalo
that's
has
what I'm saying.
Yeah, but Buffalo doesn't have any drama that's going into the locker room like Pittsburgh is. Pittsburgh has drama every season since the last 3-4 years.
Pittsburgh
I'm not comparing the two teams. What I'm saying is I'm saying that they are different. I'm saying that there is a cultural issue in Pittsburgh and that it needs to be solved. I don't think it's Tomlin's fault. I think that he's tried his best to stamp down on it. But that being said, I don't think that Tomlin or that changing the head coach is necessarily the issue. That being said, I think if they go find a head, they've had 3 in their entire history as is one of the oldest franchises in the NFL. I think they'll have no problem going out and finding another one. I can tell you it's not going to be Adam Gase. But that being said, being said, the Steelers don't need to implode the team either. Most of your fixes are on offense. Your defense is fantastic, even if Minkah Fitzpatrick is like the number 1 star on your defense. Your defense is pretty much fine. You just have to let some of the younger guys like Sutton come up and start making more plays. Your issue is offense. Your issue is the quarterback. Your issue is the entire quarterback room. Your issue is the entire running back room. Your issue is basically your tight ends who are super old or are blocking tight ends. They're not receiving tight ends. So this is now a receiving tight end NFL. And your offensive line is super old. You need Pouncey is probably going to retire. You need to move on from Villanueva. And I honestly move on from Juju. Just do it. The Juju curse is real at this point. The man started dancing on logos. You lost. The man talked shit about the Browns. You lost. To the Browns. And again, Juju is not that good of a wide receiver. He was a really good slot wide receiver when he was first drafted because A, he's good in the slot, and B, everybody was focused on AB. So you had 2 or 3 deep coverage on AB and nobody covering the guy that's super fast cutting across the field. But now he's the number 1 receiver, and you saw the exact same thing in Minnesota after Stephon Diggs left. Look what happened to Adam Thielen. He's not as good as he's not been putting up the same numbers as he has been in the past couple of years. Why? Because nobody's covering Stephon Diggs anymore. You're the number 1 wide receiver. You couldn't step up and do it. You need to put up or shut up, and he didn't. Move on from him.
Yeah, I also say the biggest downfall for the Steelers in general, and it's not even about the culture in general and the players itself. And it starts with Tomlin. For me, the biggest issue is accountability, and Tomlin never holds accountability to any of these guys. Why do you think Juju continues to have?
Tomlin has nothing to do with how bad the fuck the Steelers plays.
Oh, believe me, I know this because put it this way: AB was a fucking drama queen for 2 years after that hit from Vontaze Burfict in the playoffs against the Bengals a few years ago.
Oh yeah, everyone likes that one.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell will never shut the fuck up about making his rap tracks, which are absolute garbage. And then, of course, you have friggin' Big Ben, the glorious leader of men, Captain Fat Fuck. And then He holds nobody accountable but for himself. Everything he does within his own credit, he blames everybody else but himself. And it's always about him. And he's pretty much on the verge of retiring. And then the same could be said for when Mike Mitchell, the safety, on the team a few years ago, he's gone. I would also say that Tomlin, like I said before, he holds nobody accountabilities whatsoever. Juju has become an absolute cancer. I mean, think about it. Juju, he's not a good receiver in general. Like, he is a good slot receiver, like Ryan said, but the problem with Juju is he can't compromise himself. He's always dancing on teams' logos, and he's always saying things like, the Browns are the Browns. The same could be said for Chase Claypool. All these players act as if they're the second coming of Christ, and they have full control of the whole roster, and then it immediately impacts everybody else on the team. And there's a lot of drama within this department. And the same thing could be said for the coaches. Randy Fichtner, he can fuck off. Keith Butler, the defensive coordinator, he can fuck off. Danny Smith, the special teams coordinator, he can fuck off. Nobody on that team has any sort of accountability, and that's why Pittsburgh is taking a huge nosedive into their tenure so far with this core. I would say if they're going to make any drastic changes, you get rid of Fichtner and you get rid of Butler and you get rid of Big Ben, you trade for Sam Darnold, you get rid of Juju, and you bring in a cheap wide receiver, have another player or in the draft even, and have him play with Chase Claypool. But these people, just from what I was just describing, these people just need to shut the fuck up, grab some balls, and take some accountability, because that's something the Steelers are lacking.
Now here's another good thing, too. How about the Steelers GM Kevin Colbert, who's been on the team since 2000?
Yes, even him too. Kevin Colbert holds.
Why have the Roonies not fired him already?
Yeah, and notice too why the Steelers never fire anybody, because they conveniently retire or their contracts conveniently expire. Really think about this, guys. Pittsburgh fires nobody unless the whole situation is absolute like a bushfire. That's basically what's going on.
Yeah, so I brought up the fact that their main issue is that they leave people in there for too long. I'm not going to create a conspiracy theory about contracts expiring, because that's the whole point of contracts. They do expire. But that being said, I don't think Tomlin's not holding people accountable. I think this is NFL football, not college football. These are people that are anywhere from 22 to 35 years old. And if a coach tells them you can't eat or talk to somebody on the bus, or you can't talk to people while you're eating, or you can't talk to them while they're on the bus, they're going to tell them to go get fucked.
Well, let me ask you this, Ryan. Do you think it's acceptable? Like, if you're Mike Tomlin in this situation, and you just found out that Le'Veon Bell sits out for the entire year due to a dispute of a contract, do you just tell your players, hey, 25, 30-year-old men, go destroy Le'Veon Bell's locker?
I don't know where this is coming from.
I don't think
what
Tomlin had anything to do with that, but
because that's what Tomlin did to the guys. He basically told Bud Dupree, Big Ben, everybody on the team, Antonio Brown, he basically said when Le'Veon Bell held out for that 1 year because he wouldn't get a $12 million franchise tag, which he found insulting, they told him, go destroy Le'Veon Bell's locker. He's not coming back. He ain't a Steeler anymore. And meanwhile, Le'Veon Bell's whining like a little bitch on Instagram, liking losses about the Steelers on Instagram and everything like that, making shitty rap tracks, going to strip clubs in Miami, smacking asses while his girlfriend or his wife is sitting right next to him doing it. So it's just like, the fuck? You're a petulant child. That's the majority of the Steelers' issues. And I've been keeping track of these guys for a little while. And Pittsburgh does not act like a normal locker room. They just don't.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can't say that what Pittsburgh's done over Tomlin's time hasn't worked. I mean, like they've won Super Bowls. They're one of the best franchises in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, but
so it's not like you can't say that it doesn't work. I mean, I don't disagree with you that like Juju's been distracting with the TikTok and stuff like that, but I don't know what the thing about firing the GM is either. Like they've drafted well, like they've had success. They've never had a losing season since Tomlin's been the head coach. Like they've either had a winning season or they've been in the playoffs or they've made it to the Super Bowl or they've won the Super Bowl. Like they're not a bad franchise. And what Bell chooses to do outside of the team is what Bell chooses to do outside of the team. I mean, there's nothing in the contracts at that time that says that they couldn't sit out. So if they wanted to sit out, they absolutely could have. And that's on Bell. That's not on Tomlin. They found other running backs. They brought them in. My thing is I agree with you. They keep people for way too long. Connor should have been out of there a year ago. Big Ben should have been forced to retire 4 years ago. Juju should move on. And with all this money gone, you would hope that they would re-sign talent like Bud Dupree. But I'm not seeing where, I don't know what this locker destroying situation is. And also I wasn't like in the Steelers locker room, so I'm not going to say like, oh,
I know
yeah,
I wasn't
he
either,
did
but
it.
there's a lot of reports about it coming out from a couple of years ago. This is from the 2018 campaign where Antonio Brown was acting like an absolute prima donna, getting into arguments with Ben, saying that he had a knee injury, and he sat out and had a storm with Ben. Didn't even play in the last game against the Bengals, and that was the year they missed the playoffs when they were like 9-2-1 or something like that, and then they missed the playoffs in a wild goose chase race with fucking Cleveland in the race. Really think about that. The Pittsburgh Steelers in general, you could say and defend all they want of what they've accomplished in 15 years, but when it comes to a point where you do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, that's not something you just do on a regular basis. That's called a fucking trend, and that's what the Steelers have failed to accommodate on, and that's what a lot of people don't take the Steelers seriously anymore. That's why people say the Steelers suck. That's why people say that the Steelers are not a responsible business. You know, they're a failing business right now. I mean, they'll always have a legacy in the NFL as one of the oldest, proudest franchises in the league. They'll always be respected for that. But with this garbage situation that they're in the middle of right now, it's not working, and Tomlin needs to go. There needs to be a new culture. There needs to be a new voice in that locker room, because everybody in that room is just fucking complaining about their own entitlement, and they're not focusing on the team or focusing on wins. Because if you want to play in the National Football League, you work together as a team. It's that simple. That's why when the Bills and the Seahawks do it, they're actually having fun doing it. The Steelers pretend to have fun with it, and it just completely backfires on them. So when you have guys saying like, oh, losing, never heard of her, Chase Claypool. Cleveland got clapped. We got clapped by Cleveland. We'll beat them again next week. It's all good. When you say that kind of shit, you're basically saying, yeah, I'm an entitled brat, and I'm going to go based off of what I feel is best for my ego and for myself, and not about what we can do to get better. You don't find that concerning at all, with the fact that they lost to the Browns with a bunch of backups and now a bunch of starters in the fucking playoffs, and the whole thing in general is just going to just burn down to the ground with these guys. It is going to completely shit on them.
Yeah, and they lost twice in the last month of the season. I mean, if you go back to the regular season plus that first week in the playoffs.
I'm not saying that at any point. Like, I was one of those people that was also saying that they're like the worst 11-0 team.
Right.
Because again, we go back to the conversation that we had earlier about strength of schedule. The Chiefs had an easy strength of schedule. The Ravens, compared to the Bills, had an easy strength of schedule. But like, Pittsburgh was down towards the bottom. I'm not disagreeing with that. But again, even with all this happening, they still had like an 11-5 season. Like, they still came out with a winning season. I don't think that they're necessarily a failing franchise. I don't think that they're a failing business either. They have one of probably top 3 or 5 with us as Bills fans, one of the most hardcore fan bases. I mean, the Rooneys pump so much money into them. The issue comes down to the culture of not letting people go that need to go. And I think that, yeah, the AB thing and the Bell thing are obviously marks on their record, but they've also drafted well, not necessarily on the offensive side. They've had some hit or miss, but definitely on the defensive side of the ball. So I don't necessarily, again, see where the calls for the GM come in to get fired. And I think Tomlin's done the best that he can up till this point. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I think it is troubling to see a team get absolutely not just beat, but like obliterated by a Browns team that has guys that they just signed 24 hours prior. Right. I think that that's absolutely.
And I called that, by the way. I called that.
And I think that that's absolutely an issue. I think that also equally says how good of a head coach Stefanski is, right, with his staff, and the fact that he literally had coordinators calling that game. I mean, the special team coordinator was calling that game. Yeah. I also agree that they need to fire, that Pittsburgh needs to fire most of their coaching staff as well. I just don't know if Tomlin necessarily needs to go as part of that.
I don't think Pittsburgh is too far off. I think that they don't need to go do a full scale rebuild. Like, they went 12-4. There's a reason why they went 12-4. Like, there's a reason. Like, you got to get rid of some players. Like Big Ben, it's time to hang him up, dude. Like, Big Ben has to go.
He's done.
He's done. So I
should have been done like 4 years ago.
maybe drafting a Mac Jones or something, maybe something to develop in the Pittsburgh system. Juju has to hit the road. He is creating a bad influence on all the receiving core. You have Eric Ebron tweeting out after they go 9-0 about how, oh, thumbs up if you're the only undefeated team in the league, and then 4 weeks later you lose to Washington. And then you have Chase Claypool talking about how he's never heard of losing, and then they lose in the first round. Then they give up 48 points to the Browns in the first round of the playoffs. I don't think that they're too far off. I think you keep Mike Tomlin, but they kind of remind me of the Packers. Like they are great in the regular season, and then for whatever reason they go to the playoffs and they just can't seem to win the big game to take them to the Super Bowl. I mean, the Packers won it in 2011 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but ever since then, you see losses in the playoffs with the Packers against the Falcons, against the Seahawks. I remember that game where they gave up like a 19-0 lead to the Seahawks, and then they ended up losing that game in overtime. I think they're just a couple of pieces away. Get rid of the old, ship in the new, and you might want to call this a retool. But if you guys want to talk about a complete rebuild, freaking talk about the Chicago Bears.
Oh God.
Oh boy.
Oh man, that was brutal.
Or
Instead comes out and says that they're not firing their GM and head coach.
Or the Carolina Panthers. Look at the Carolina Panthers, man. They're literally in super tank mode.
If we're talking about rebuilds, can we talk very quickly about how after the 2017 season, when the Jaguars were literally on their way up, they were like, we're going to rebuild again. Fire everybody. Right. Let all of our talent go.
Yeah, look how that turned out for them.
Yeah.
I still to this day do not understand what the Jags thoughts were going into that, because it's like you were there. You were in the playoffs. And after 1 year, like you won that wild card game against a bad Buffalo team, but you won that game. Then you got beat. Why did you? I don't understand the rebuild. And then you just fired Doug Marrone 3 years after that.
Then you want to bring in Urban Meyer. So what does that mean? Are you guys going to draft Lawrence, or are you guys going to draft Justin Fields? Like, what does this mean? Who's going to be the first overall pick now? Since you're probably going to bring in Urban Meyer.
More than likely, it's going to be Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the thing, though. Everybody, all of a sudden, after Lawrence loses that game a couple weeks ago, now the conversation has shifted to Lawrence may not be the first overall pick.
Right.
I find that hard to believe he will not be the first overall pick. Zach Wilson. I forgot about Zach Wilson. But here's the thing. With the whole Urban Meyer situation, the Jaguars are basically waiting for him to give him an answer. And meanwhile, they're growing frustrated on him because he's still trying to complex of whether he wants to leave Ohio. He loves his grandkids who are in Ohio. And all of a sudden now he's like, do I want to give up everything I've done for the last couple of years as much as I retired because I'm done with coaching? And now the Jags want to offer me an opportunity to go in the NFL? Or do I go to the Chargers, who just spoke to him a few minutes ago, or a few hours ago, I should say, about the coaching position? So instead of Jacksonville doing what they're supposed to be doing, their whole purpose right now is they're specifically waiting on Urban Meyer. They're not searching for other candidates like they're supposed to be doing. And this is why Jacksonville is becoming a very, really, really bad situation for Trevor Lawrence, because Shad Khan wants full control of the whole team, and he's basically dictating, we only want Urban Meyer, nobody else.
But did you just say Shad Khan wants full control of the team?
Yes, I did. I said that.
Well, yeah, he's the owner of the team, Bobby.
No. But here's the thing.
He does have control over the team.
But he also completely control all personnel moves too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But if you're an owner who is way too involved, like look at the Pagulas with the Sabres. They are way too involved with the organization. And that's why the Sabres have utterly sucked for 10 years, because owners get too involved and then it just becomes an absolute fucking shit fest. Mm-hmm. So if you let the general manager of any professional sports franchise do their job and get the coach that you firmly believe is the guy, that's when you do it. The only thing the owner would say to at this point is if he approves the move or he disapproves it. There's two ways of this. But if you have an owner like the Pagulas, because they leave the Bills alone because they know what they're doing with the Bills. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the Sabres, they are way too controlled and they are way too involved. And it pisses off everybody. And this is not common ground. Khan wants full control of the team. And yes, I get it. He's the owner. But if you're too involved, it's going to be an unmedicated disaster, and then it ruins your entire process, and it ruins all of your future plans as far as the first overall pick. Because Jacksonville, when it comes to Jacksonville, there's no doubt in my mind they'll take Trevor Lawrence, but they will fuck it up if they take Justin Fields first overall, just because he went to the national game. It's a trend, because every now and then, I mean, 2 weeks ago, it was Trevor Lawrence. Last week it was Justin Fields. Now it's Devontae Smith. So there's no guarantee who's going to be the second overall pick after Trevor Lawrence.
That being said, though,
like back to the Pagula situation. Like, my thing is, if they're not involved with the Bills on the Bills side, but yet then why can't they do the same for the Sabres? If they see that their team is just horrible, why can't they do this? Why can't they do what they did for the Bills for the Sabres? That's my question.
Well, I think
that's my thing.
They're afraid of getting rid of the control right now because the Sabres have sucked for the last 10 years. I mean, you look at what Darcy Regier did, you look at what Tim Murray did, you look at what Botterill did. I mean, you basically had 3 GMs that should have not been there. I mean, Regier should have been gone in 2000. That didn't happen after the whole Briere scandal, which is basically like, oh, I'm going to let them both go to free agency. And then, of course, both of them walk on the same day, which at the time, Golisano owned the team. But Regier should have been fired immediately after that whole thing. And that decision still irritates me to this day. Then what ends up happening is that, of course, when we had the corrupt ownership with the Regas family, they're like, it's like, I'll try to imitate them. And on this day, we're going to give them the tools to finish the job. Yeah, and then 6 months later, you end up in prison. So
I just want to point out the Jaguars. Go ahead.
My bad. Like real quick. Honestly, if you want a winning franchise, there's gonna have to come a time where you just gotta let it go and let the GM or the head coach, take control of the team. Because
exactly.
Buffalo, look, as much as Buffalo loves the Bills, I truly believe Buffalo is a hockey town.
Mm-hmm.
So
it always has been.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Josh Anderson and Wade Simmons have been in. Simmons, the fight, getting the bench going down 2. They later. It's Anderson that has the halves up right now, and Bergman said forget him.
We're watching the game at the same time as we're recording. What are we doing?
You gotta at least press mute.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
He doesn't give a fuck.
Oh, man. But
I'm just saying, man. Like,
hey, you know what? The fucking NHL's back.
You just gotta let it go.
Yo, I think Indy should possibly think of. I mean, there's a bunch of rumors and stuff going around saying the Colts can trade up to try to get a Trey Lance or a Zach Wilson, or if they need to, they can just stay put and maybe draft a Mac Jones. I'm not high on Mac Jones. I don't think Alabama quarterbacks really pan out to be anything. I mean, look at the NFL right now. You only have like Tua and AJ McCarron, I believe, right, as your Alabama quarterbacks that are in there, and one of them's a third stringer right now.
Hey, Trevor.
Yeah.
Let's get Aaron Rodgers to Indianapolis.
Dude, bring Aaron Rodgers to Indianapolis.
Aaron Rodgers to Indianapolis.
Oh.
Let's go. But here's my thing to what Bobby was saying before. The Jags have actually interviewed more than just Urban Meyer. They've also interviewed Eric Bieniemy, Raheem Morris, and Robert Salah. And Salah is obviously in high demand across the NFL. That being said, though, rumor has it that Eric Bieniemy is going to go another coaching cycle without getting hired by another NFL team. So
You know
he'll
what?
probably remain with
good too.
Hey, Bobby, can I say one thing?
What? Shut the fuck up.
Jimmy VC just scored.
What?
Blind squirrel.
He actually scored a goal.
Blind
It's
squirrel
cool.
finds a nut once in a while there, Adam. So blind
Squirrel finds a net every once in a while. But
Hey,
here's
you know what?
here's the Sabres Bills rhetoric. Like, I don't understand why they would treat it differently. I don't like I see them in
that's what I'm saying.
I don't but I'm saying, like, I don't know that they are. I don't know if that's just the rhetoric that's been painted by Sabres fans. And I'll reiterate this again for those of you that are new to me as an individual. I'm a Sabres fan. I like the Sabres. I'm going to hate watch for 56 games because we're going to suck, but that's besides the point. But I hate more than the team, the fan base of the Sabres, because it's the most toxic out of any of the 4 sports in any sport. Cricket, throw cricket in there. I don't care what it is.
Bowling,
ping pong,
Come on.
badminton. I don't care what it is. Competitive sewing.
Oh
The
yeah.
Sabres have the worst,
sewing.
most toxic fan base, and I absolutely hate them because they just say the dumbest things. And hey, I mean, granted, I get it. It's a poverty franchise in the NHL.
That's how you really
That being
feel.
said,
You literally already said cricket, so you're already like
Right.
dead. To
Right.
points.
that being said, I part of me, more than 50% tells me that this is just like a rhetoric that's been brought up by the fan base, because it's not like the Sabres are hurting for money.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they get money pumped into it. Like they're like, oh, well, look at all the upgrades they've done to the stadium versus the arena. Well, they've done the arena every time that they've done the stadium. It's just a shitty arena that was built in the 90s without any thought or care. It was just thrown together. It wasn't state of the art.
Well, they didn't
It's
really
just an arena.
touch too much in the seating bowl because they still have seat. Well, all the seats are still original for most part. And
I'm literally,
Yeah, they
I'm
haven't
literally
done.
trying to understand why this matters as a Buffalo Sabres being a shitty team. What's the point?
It just goes along with the rhetoric that the Pagulas don't care about it goes one of two ways. It's either the Pagulas don't care about the Sabres or they care too much about the Sabres that they don't do anything. And you'll hear both, but both of them equal the Pagulas are like too involved with the Sabres, or they're going about it wrong. And I think it's just a case of they got told one thing by the head coaches and the GMs that they were firing, and it didn't pan out. And people are like, okay, well, like, look at what they've been able to do with the NFL. And it's like, yeah, that's, of course they've been able to do that with the NFL.
Well, I remember the stupid Sabres fans last year, or November of 2019, when Rasmus Dahlin was having his first little sophomore slump, and Sabres fans on Twitter were saying that we should have drafted Svechnikov over Rasmus Dahlin. I could not live with myself after reading those tweets. Like, Svechnikov over Rasmus Dahlin, who's going to be a future Norris Trophy candidate, at least, maybe a Norris Trophy winner. I'm like, he's putting up all these points as a rookie. You have to give him time. He's playing for the Sabres. You got to take that into account too. He's not playing for the Capitals or the Lightning or the Bruins. He's playing with the Sabres. So you have to understand, like, it's going to take a guy a while to develop. Everybody has a sophomore slump, including Alex Ovechkin, who's arguably one of the best goal scorers of all time. He had a severe sophomore slump in his second season, and no, I don't think anybody in the Caps organization was like, "Oh, he's a bust. He sucks.
I'd also like to point out that Alex Ovechkin was also moved down to the third line during last season because his play wasn't up where it needed to be.
Yep.
Yeah,
And that's another thing. Like, Washington is so stacked that you can afford to do stuff like that too, and it works. I mean, and look at like Lindy Ruff's Sabres. Like, look at these line combos he would throw together: Roy on the left wing, Drury at center, Greer on the right wing, and it worked.
Right.
And then you have like Hesht, Roy, Kodalik. Who would have thought that would work?
Yeah, seriously.
And it worked.
And is too
The worst thing is because, I mean, the Sabres have not had a fantastic development system for a number of years, and we saw that was a priority of this Kevin Adams led front office, because they fired everybody that won games in Rochester and said, we're going to go with people that know how to develop.
Right.
But that being said, everybody was like, now that we've had Bottle and we've moved past, everybody's like, oh, Murray would have got it done in another year or so.
I doubt it.
We have 0 prospects. We have no prospects.
Right. Well,
we have absolutely no prospects on this team.
Serious? You have 2 on the roster right now. You have Cousins and you have Quinn.
2 compared to how? But Bobby, that's what I'm saying. There's 2. We have 2 prospects. Like 2 legitimate prospects.
What about UPL?
Yeah, okay. 3 prospects.
Is he even
Ryan Johnson.
You're
What
not,
about
but
him?
you're missing the point. How
I
many
get
of
what you're
those are
saying.
legit-
You're saying the Sabres have a shitty prospect pool, and they don't
Yeah,
know what the
and I'm
fuck they're
s-
doing as far as
I'm
development goes.
I am saying that we have a shitty prospect pool. You're absolutely correct. But what I'm saying is Murray traded away a bunch of prospects for draft picks, and then we drafted shitty prospects. We have maybe 5. Like, cool. How many prospects in the last however many years have legitimately made it up to the NHL? You
Olsen.
can't even. Olofsson, who
Tyler
scored. Tyler Ennis, who's no longer with us, and yeah, you can say Olofsson, but Olofsson scored more on shorthanded goals
Nathan
than
Gergensen.
he's- we and Gergensen is like a 3rd or 4th line guy. I'm just saying, like, the Sabres are not. I'm just saying, like, the Sabres are not good at prospects. They're not good at developing prospects. They're not good at bringing prospects up. We don't have a prospect pool, and this is my issue with why we go ahead and the Sabres are now at what I call critical mass. Like, they're literally at the point where now it's better to keep a crappy head coach and a crappy GM for consistency than it is to fire another one of them and bring somebody else in, because they're going to get rid of the guys that were in the middle of developing, or they're going to change the way that they're trying to develop them, or they're going to bring in all these guys that have talent. Or you brought in all these guys that have talent, and you're going to try to coach them in a different way, and they're not going to like it, so they're going to end up getting traded, and we're just in this perpetual cycle of being a poverty franchise. And the Sabres are really good at being a poverty franchise.
Yep, the good old cycle of wash, rinse, and repeat.
It's absolutely ridiculous, and so that's the end of my rant as to why I hate the Sabres fan base, and they're the most toxic in the entire world.
No, you want to talk about poor draft choices, and I blame most of the freaking scouts for this reason, is because Casey Middlestat. You look at Casey Middlestat, he can't do a single pull up, and you draft him in the 1st round.
Actually, you bring up a good point about him, because we talked about him last week, actually twice on our show, and what happened is we talked about Rasmus Dahlin, how he put on 14 pounds of muscle in the offseason.
Oh yeah.
And so he's bulking up and getting stronger. And Middlestat lost weight. So I'm like, you're even smaller than you were.
Thick body. He's gonna get thrown around the rink. He's gonna get thrown around the rink like a Barbie doll in the AHL, and that's saying something, man. Like, how do you look at, like, being sent down to the AHL? You don't take it as a wake up call. Oh, I better step up my game. Jack Quinn got elevated to the active roster before I did. Like.
Right.
That is a wake-up call. And Rasmus Dahlin is doing the work. He's gaining muscle, while Middlestat is doing whatever the hell he's doing, and he's losing 3 pounds.
Right. I mean, in the NHL, especially when someone's a young kid, they have to bulk up and put the muscle on, because that's the only way you're going to survive for like 5-10 years or however.
Sam Reinhart did it. Sam Reinhart did it. Tyler Ennis did it. Obviously, Rasmus Ristolainen's doing it now.
Right, exactly. I mean,
if we're
bulk up a little bit, I mean, all the good players are going to take the time and bulk up, and they're going to put the muscle on so they can be durable over the long haul.
Yep.
I blame Sean. I blame everything on Sean for the fact the Sabres are utter garbage.
God damn it, Sean.
Of course.
Can we? Okay, so let's talk about this.
Smart.
Hey, that man went to Seattle. That team's not even around yet. He's already.
He's already a Kraken fan. He's a Seattle Kraken fan. All right, guys. I'm just giving you a heads up right now. Sean O'Malley, the only guy in this group, is a Kraken fan, and there's no players yet.
All right,
He's probably smarter than all of
Jason
us.
Botterill's on that team because he's the assistant GM.
Who's Jason Botterill? Fuck his chunky ass.
Enjoy Kyle Oposo when he gets sent to Seattle in the.
Can we? Okay, so let's.
Expansion draft, but go on, Ryan.
Okay, I like that you brought Okposo up, because I went and dropped I recorded and dropped the first episode of season 2 of The Rivalry, so we're officially back as one of the many podcasts for Brovia Union Sports.
I'll have your co-hosts on sometime too. Have all of you guys on.
I will absolutely have all of you guys on at some point in time, because we have like 20 podcasts that we're doing. So if anybody here likes racing, you can absolutely be on our
NASCAR
one.
baby.
But so we announced today, right? Was it today, the 13th? Yeah, so we announced today who our captains and assistant captains are. Let's before we get into that, let's go back a couple.
Absolutely.
We have talked about bringing actual veteran leadership into this team forever. It's the reason that we justified keeping. It's the reason that we justified keeping Bogosian around. It's the reason that we justified keeping Okposo on the team. It's the reason we justified Vladimir Sabatka on this team.
Yeah,
Those are the reasons we justified, because they're veterans. But they didn't have any leadership. And then we bring in Eric Stahl. He sits there and talks to the media about how he works with these young guys in practice.
You
He
literally
works on
gave away
developing
Ryan
them.
O'Reilly.
We literally brought in Ryan. Hold on. You guys are messing this up. All these guys have
No, you gave away Ryan O'Reilly.
You guys, they have no leadership experience. Then they bring in a guy like Eric Stahl, who shows actual leadership. Is talking to the media about how he's working with these younger guys on their development and like changing their technique and their mechanics and stuff like that to be better goal scorers. Our assistant captains are Kyle frickin' Okposo and Jake McCabe. Tell me, what the fuck are we doing?
I have a better idea. Why are they choosing those two?
Wait, though. Bobby, shut up.
What?
But that's what I'm saying. Why did we choose them?
You gave away Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, but like that's not part of this conversation. The part of the conversation is we actually have like a veteran leader on this roster right here, right now, and we don't give him a leadership position. No offense, I'm still sticking with my argument that Jack Eichel is not a leader.
That's fine.
That's the best thing I heard all day.
I think the argument that Paul Hamilton was the reason why Ryan O'Reilly wanted to get out of Buffalo, because he just kept poking at that topic. Oh, you and Jack don't get along because you wanted to see and Jack got it and blah 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 blah. And you're just pissing off Ryan O'Reilly. I seriously can throw this hot take out there that Paul Hamilton had something to do with and that Buffalo media had something to do with Ryan O'Reilly losing the passion for the game.
I'm really curious if Paul Hamilton has diabetes.
Oh, he probably does.
That fat fuck doesn't know shit.
Oh my god, Bob.
Adam.
Hey, Rob Ray was trying to whip him into shape after he had some other issues.
But so I'm still sticking with my argument that Jack Eichel, I have not seen legitimately anything that tells me that Jack Eichel is a leader. And Sabres Twitter can yell in my face all day that he is. I haven't seen a goddamn thing. And I see Eric Stahl here for 2 seconds, and he's talking to the media about how he's working with guys on their mechanics and in their play style to be better goal scorers.
You look at a guy like Jack Eichel, if I want to get knowledge about what's going on in the locker room, honestly, Jack Eichel is the last guy I ask. Like, absolutely. His interviews are, I mean, I love the guy. I love Jack Eichel. He's elite right now. He just hit his prime. But like his interviews are so like uninsightful and they're just uninteresting. Like he'll just tell you he won't, I mean he'll tell you what it is. He'll tell you something straightforward, but I mean, you want to talk to somebody, I'm talking to Linus Ullmark. What's going on in that locker room? Linus Ullmark's going to tell you everything that's going on. Eric Stahl's going to tell you everything that's going on. Kyle Okposo, concussed Kyle Okposo will tell you more about what's going on in the locker room than Jack Eichel. I mean, I love Jack. I think without Jack, this team is in some serious hell.
Yeah, we're a less talented team.
Everybody's losing their jobs and shit like that, and Buffalo's probably going to get sold to another city if Eichel isn't here. I mean, I love Eichel to death, but like, if you want to talk about like enthusiasm in the locker room, I don't know what happens behind closed doors. I don't play for the Sabres, but like I think back when Eichel was a rookie, you had guys like Evander Kane that were firing the boys up. You know, guys like Jake McCabe. I don't know about so much anymore. Jake McCabe, Kyle Okposo, Linus Ullmark, dude. Like, can we have some more Linus Ullmark interviews? Some more Linus Ullmark content from WGR, like that. He is a beast. I love listening to Linus.
I love
WGR.
I'll say this: Bobby thinks that legit thinks that Matthews is not as good as Eichel.
I never said that.
Eichel is better than Matthews. I'll just leave this.
You literally said that comparable to Matthews. Eichel was comparable to Matthews.
Yeah, I said it in terms of individual accomplishments. Matthews is surrounded by fucking John Tavares.
Eichel's better. He's better with less weapons, and that's saying something.
Fuck, man. If you think Matthews is not as good as Eichel, you're fucking delirious.
Well, yeah, you're the one blowing his penis.
I think that they're legitimately equally as good, but I think Trevor has a point that Jack is still I think, but here's my thing. I'll also say I think Jack could be better on a more consistent basis, and he's just not.
Oh
Because
my
we've
God,
seen.
are you fucking serious? You think Jack Eichel's a better player on a consistent basis than Matthews?
No. I'm saying I think Jack Eichel needs, or I'm saying Jack Eichel can be a more consistent player on a more consistent basis, and he's not. Because we've seen nights where he goes out and scores 4 goals, and then he goes on a 3-game streak where he doesn't even put up an assist.
Dude, the thing with Eichel's an amazing elite player, but he's on the wrong team.
I
He
don't
needs to go
disagree.
somewhere where he's more like more utilized than Buffalo. He needs to fucking like jump ship.
All right, boys, I gotta take off.
All right. So thanks for jumping on, man. You're welcome back anytime. Of course, you got the Hour show, so definitely anyone who's not seen it, check it out.
Yep, hell yeah, boys. Go Sabres.
All right. See you, man.
Hey, guys.
All right. So it was nice to have him on for a little bit and, at least, talk a little bit about the Colts game. But let's get right back to the Sabres because, I mean, with the season starting up, I mean, now it's anyone's guess what happens.
Well, I do have some breaking news from
Bobby
earlier today.
suck. That's what happens. But go ahead, Bobby.
Wow.
A lot of fucking feed. They're gonna be like,
You just
If they
said I
don't-
suck.
if they luckily fucking make the wild card fucking place, they'll literally be either that or fucking like bottom feeders of the fucking division.
Listen,
Hey, they could come out and surprise the entire NHL, but based on the fact that we're playing the Philadelphia Flyers
No.
multiple
not
times
gonna-
a season,
you're not
Alex
gonna-
Ovechkin multiple times a season, maybe we make the playoffs, maybe we attempt to make a run, but we need to go on like 3 10-game win streaks to even get there.
Right.
Well, here's my
Metro
thing.
division's a tougher division than we usually play in. So
Dude, you're playing Boston.
So what?
And-
You're playing Vancouver, Toronto,
I think
Montreal,
Boston-
Calgary.
I'm just saying
think-
you're in a fucking tough division, man. You can't say like, we have a mediocre team. We're gonna play against Washington. We're gonna play against Boston. No, you're gonna be like bottom feeders of the fucking league.
right, Washington is stacked. Boston's always competitive. I mean,
Oh yeah,
You
I'm
look at
saying
the
that we're
rest of
playing
the
against
Metro,
tough
yeah.
teams.
yeah, I mean the Islanders are a good team. I mean, you look at the Rangers; they're doing stuff. I mean, all the Metro teams are good.
I hope the best for Buffalo. I really do, because like they paid their dues over the fucking years to be like, like I hope you do good, but like, man, that division is fucking tough.
Well, you have to sometimes go over the adversary. I mean, if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. I mean, we can make the argument now about the Bills, about, we're so worried about the Ravens game.
We're not
Well, if you want to go to
talking
the fucking Super Bowl,
Football right now, we're talking about fucking hockey.
like, it's the same idea. That's all
No,
I
it's
give a
not
shit
the
about.
same idea. It's a totally different fucking sport. Nobody cares about football and sport.
Right. Although I will say,
Thinking about-
before we get back to the Sabres, though, I mean, I'm actually glad that we're playing the Ravens versus the Browns based on the run games. So I mean, just that alone, because Cleveland was totally destroying Pittsburgh and everybody this season with that run game. So, but back to the Sabres, though, Bobby, your point was go for it.
Well, I already lost my train of thought because everybody didn't shut the fuck up about it. So I already lost my
You're
train of thought.
talking about breaking news.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Breaking news from earlier today was that I lost my train of thought. Fuck. If it comes back to me, I'll let you know. Oh, now I remember. Nobody gives a fuck about basketball, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. James Harden got traded to the Brooklyn Nets.
Ooh, he wanted out of Houston for a while.
Yeah, you're right.
no,
Nobody.
You're
gives a
right,
shit.
though.
But
Nobody
that being
gives a fuck.
said-
But
That being said, it's super weird that Deshaun Watson and James Harden both leave Houston in the same year.
well, here's another idea. How about this one? How about the fact, because nobody said congratulations to me yet, because I am a Mets fan, and Sean could suck my dick in the end of the show, because the Mets actually did something for once in my pathetic life. They traded for Francisco fucking Lindor. How about that?
Good pickup for them.
Sean,
Yeah,
you do
yeah,
not
yeah,
have
yeah,
to suck
cool.
his dick.
Yeah. It sounds like, we got all the world titles.
Yeah, well, I hate to break it to you, but when you don't win a World Series title in 13 years, it don't mean shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. I made sure I got
There you go. See, Tom's got the right idea.
Yeah, I still got it. Oh, and actually, your point too. It's kind of funny because I was flipping through and I actually saw the Brooklyn Nets versus the Knicks right now, and of course the Knicks are getting their ass kicked again. So whatever.
Who gives a fuck? I just know the big names in basketball. That's all I know, and Harden was one of them. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Everybody else, I don't give a fuck about. But yeah, so the Francisco Lindor trade really made me happy because Uncle Steve, of all people, who makes in terms of profit makes $10 million more than the New York Yankees themselves, went out and actually made a trade that made Mets fans happy for the season and got one of the best shortstops in all of baseball in Francisco Lindor. And people are saying, oh, is he going to sign with the Mets? I think he will. It's probably going to be for like 10 years for like $300 million or something like that. But you got to pay Lindor for what he's worth. I mean, especially if they weren't that confident, then they wouldn't be trading for the guy. So
exactly,
there you have it. So that's what I
at least you don't have the Wilpons as owners anymore, so that's a big plus.
Thank the gods that they're not the owners anymore because I'm so sick of their shit as far as being a bunch of cheap asses. Because if the Wilpons were still the owners, they would not be anywhere near where they are right now as far as getting Francisco Lindor, as far as getting all these big name free agents. DJ LeMahieu might come from the Yankees to play for the Mets. How about them apples?
There you go, crosstown trade.
There you go. Yeah, so that's that. But as far as the season for the NHL, there's going to be a lot of conversation about trades, which to me are probably going to be just as difficult because of COVID restrictions and stuff like that. But I think in terms of all this shit, it's going to be a good year for testing as far as which players are going to go to Seattle, which players are going to be able to accommodate with the culture of their current teams. It's all going to be a mixed bag year for as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, very true. And actually, we got a little bit of breaking news out of Major League Baseball. So Major League Baseball right now is planning on a full 162 game season for 2021. Spring training is scheduled to start on time, and fans can attend games as early as this spring.
Oh, goody. So that means I can get to go to Citi Field and watch the Mets again.
That's 162 more baseball games than I will be watching.
That's fine. You can go fuck yourself because I'm a Met fan.
Oh my god. Yeah, so I mean, really, the other thing that I was thinking about a little bit earlier is if we jump back to football for a little bit, one of the other things that came out is Baltimore was talking about how they're comparing Josh Allen to being a young Ben Roethlisberger with a Dan Marino arm.
That's a new one.
Yeah, that's a new one. But then they also said that Buffalo last year was the toughest team they faced.
I like that.
Yeah,
if it's too tough for them, it's just right for us.
I'll just point it out. Can I point out the fact that the Leafs have beat the Habs in overtime? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I just point out that Austin Matthews was hurt on the bench for a couple minutes there. I don't know if he went back in or not. But
no, he's fine. He's
okay.
fine.
And can I just say real quick that the Leafs still suck?
Okay. But when it comes to the Ravens and the Bills, I mean, a lot of people were pointing out, hey, never played in a snow game, which the man plays in Baltimore. I don't know how that's possible. But apparently Stephon Diggs has also never played in a snow game. That being said, the weather's not supposed to be that treacherous. I think we're only talking like 1 to 2 inches of snow. So I don't know how much weather is necessarily going to be a factor. That being said, Lamar is not a cold weather quarterback, and Josh Allen is. I mean, the man went to Wyoming, played in Wyoming, spent in Buffalo for a couple of years now, so he's used to it. So I don't know. There's a lot that goes into this game. Again, I'll go back to my previous comment of saying I think the Chiefs, not the Chiefs, I think the Colts were the best all-around team that we could have faced, not just in the AFC, but at any point in the playoffs. Yeah. But it's going to be equally as not equally as hard, but it's still going to be a close game. Not going to go in there and blow them out. It may once more be a one-score game.
Yeah,
very true.
What?
No, I think the Bills are going to blow them out. I really do.
He really believes that too, which is
the fact that you are good at predicting games. I'm glad that you said that. As long as we win, I don't care how we win. As long as we win, I honestly think.
I say 38-17 Bills. I literally think that they're gonna fucking blow them out.
I'm thinking it's going to be a closer game. I mean, I'm only looking at maybe a 10-point spread if that.
I'm going to say 3-point game deficit. I said to Adam the other day that my score originally was 32-28 Buffalo, but then he says to me, just so that I don't jinx it, I'm going to change my score to exactly the Bills score from last week. It was 27-24, but I'm going to say 27-21 in favor of Buffalo.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Actually,
I'll say 38-17. Allen fucking throws his ass out.
Hey,
well, Allen does have a higher completion percentage over Lamar Jackson this season. And I mean, Lamar actually took a little bit of a step back this year.
Yeah, newsflash, Lamar Jackson is not a passing quarterback.
Exactly.
No, he's a fucking running quarterback, and you have to fucking stop him.
Right.
Can we
Stop the guy.
since we're on the topic of quarterbacks, rumor has it that Deshaun Watson may potentially end up in the AFC East. I don't know how true that is.
Oh,
But let's talk about that because you potentially have there was that, and then the next day, some anonymous sources apparently came out of the Dolphins locker room and said that a bunch of Dolphins players are not sold on Tua as their franchise quarterback going forward.
Yeah, I heard this story too. And then to top it off on that, the report is that the Dolphins are going to talk to the Texans in March for a trade between the two clubs, between Miami and Houston. And the deal is supposedly Deshaun Watson to the Miami Dolphins, and the Texans get a load of picks, including the number 3 pick, which goes back to Houston. And they get another first rounder in next year's draft in 2022, and they get a down the road middle round picks. And then, of course, to throw in the trade, they get Tua Tagovailoa.
I guarantee you that if they're trading for Deshaun Watson, who even with one of the worst teams in the NFL, still ended up in most of the top 5 or top 3 for quarterback ratings, I guarantee you that's at least 5 first-round picks going forward.
You were not
at the least.
You are not trading 5 fucking first-rounders for a quarterback.
At the least, it's 5 first-round picks.
Ryan.
At the least.
Nobody trades 5 first-round picks for a quarterback. Nobody.
They will for how many times have we seen now more and more first-round picks getting traded?
Then why did the Bills only give up 1 first-round pick for Stephon Diggs?
How many times have we seen in this past offseason? What was it? Who got traded out of Houston? I'm trying to go.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up what their.
They didn't get a first rounder. I can certainly say that when Bill O'Brien traded DeAndre Hopkins, or in his case, the Aaron Hernandez of their roster. Yeah, literally.
Okay. I don't remember exactly who it was for, but Pat McAfee was talking about this, and this is where this is coming from. They were talking about the fact that people are getting whoever it was that they were talking about got traded, and they ended up getting like 2 or 3 first-round picks for this person.
Yeah, so here's what actually happened, because I pulled up the article from The Ringer. So Bill O'Brien traded Hopkins to Arizona for the 40th pick in the 2020 draft, a 4th rounder in 2021, and David Johnson. And then basically from that point, I mean, there wasn't anything else there. But then it looks like what happened here is that when, of course, Diggs ended up getting traded, well, we ended up trading for Diggs. That ended up happening, but basically, I mean, same thing. I mean, it wasn't like 5 picks or anything like that, but still, I mean, Bill O'Brien's an idiot to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. But who the hell was this? The name is like right on the tip of my tongue. But again, the Texans went 4-11, and Deshaun Watson still ended up in the top 3 to top 5 of quarterback stats and quarterback conversations across the NFL. He's going for multiple first-round picks. Like, that's not disputable, especially when you're talking about trading first-round quarterbacks.
Yeah, but
or franchise quarterbacks.
Yeah, but the point is, you don't trade 5 first-round picks for 1 player. I mean, it's not like.
I'm not saying that that's what the return is going to be. Obviously, Houston's going to have to include other things in that.
Right.
But chances are they're getting 4 or 5 first-round picks and Tua for Deshaun Watson, and probably 2 or 3 first-round picks, or a first round, a second round, and like a couple of third rounds. Houston's going to come away with a bunch of draft capital moving forward, which is why the job is now easier for Nick Caserio as the new GM down there because you have Tua, who is possibly a franchise quarterback. I don't think he is possibly a franchise quarterback, and a crap ton of draft capital. And then you have the GM or the front office and the coaching staff in Miami that now has the team that they have with Deshaun Watson.
It's very possible, but I don't know. I mean, the way how the Texans are working with Nick Caserio now as the general manager, I can certainly say that Deshaun Watson had no say in the GM search at all. They did not even call Deshaun Watson because they promised him that he was going to be part of it, to have some sort of say about what was going to happen, and never came to mind, never even came to fruition. And Deshaun Watson is angry at the team. And then players like Arian Foster, Andre Johnson, and a few other players that played for the Texans, they've all said, dude, if you want to save your career, get out. That's all they basically told him. Get out of Houston.
Even J.J. Watt is at that point now almost.
I don't blame J.J. Watt, to be honest with you.
Watt is absolutely going to leave. It would be dumb of him not to. He has obviously places that would bring him in a heartbeat.
If
that being said,
for anything for J.J. Watt, I would take him in a heartbeat.
Oh, absolutely. I think he's a perfect fit in Buffalo, especially with who he is, who his character is. He's an absolute fit culture-wise.
Absolutely.
That being said, I think if Caserio is, I think that he's actively attempting to play the middleman between the Texans and Deshaun Watson, because Watson is still young. Like, he still has a long time. If you think that you can build a legitimate contender for this guy, you're definitely not getting rid of the best player on your team and undoubtedly one of the best quarterbacks that's currently playing in the NFL.
Right.
He's definitely a top 10 quarterback without a doubt. But with the kind of talent that Watson has, the Texans are doing him no favors whatsoever.
No, but again, you also have to realize they're rebuilding. They don't have the same GM. They don't have the same head coach. So it's who are they going to bring in the next 2-3 years to make him that better player. But again, I go back to my previous comment of they were 4-11 and still in quarterback stats, he was like top 3, top 5 in the league.
Yeah.
So he's imagine the talent that gets put around him, like good, legitimate talent. Houston is going to be the team that we thought it was going to be 3-4 years ago when he got drafted.
Yeah. And one other thing, too, I want to bring up real quick before I guess we could say we wrap up the show is I want to talk about the coaching searches that's been going on. And the one topic that's been going around is there's been at least 7 teams available in terms of jobs that are available for every coach to take. And Robert Saleh's name came up earlier today that he had a second interview with the New York Jets. And it turns out after the second interview, he was supposed to sign a contract. And he said, I'm not going to sign the contract. He leaves MetLife, and he's going to have an interview a couple hours ago with the Philadelphia Eagles. So if he leaves Philadelphia, or if he stays in Philadelphia for the next couple of days and signs a contract, the Eagles just unanimously just got arguably one of the better coaching candidates available in the market. And one other rumor, now I don't know how far distant this is going to go, but just take my word for it, is – I firmly think if Brian Daboll is serious about being a head coach in the NFL, and there's a possibility for this to happen, if he is going to take a job, where do you think he ends up going?
The only head coaching job he takes is the Chargers. I think if the Chargers don't go with him, or for some reason he doesn't take it, I don't think he goes anywhere else.
Well, that'd be great if they can keep Daboll. But so you say Chargers. Sean, what do you think?
Oh boy. Maybe Philadelphia.
Philadelphia? What about you, Tom?
I'm thinking it's probably going to be the Chargers. And one of the things I look at with Philadelphia is, getting rid of Doug Peterson, but not getting rid of Howie Roseman. Why would you not get rid of the executive VP of the Eagles? Howie Roseman has been a big part of a lot of screw-ups that the Eagles have had the last several years. You look at Chip Kelly, you look at a lot of the personnel that have come through. Peterson was actually trying to do things, but Roseman was drafting like absolute crap half the time. So you're not getting the right personnel, and his micromanaging of the roster and the personnel is absolutely brutal.
I was about to say Peterson didn't get fired because he hasn't had success. Peterman got fired because he quote unquote was tired of people telling him what to fucking do.
I
That's-
saw that. And I think
That's why he got fired. So I can just imagine him walking into the office and be like, "Oh, you want me to keep coaching for you? Oh, well, give me some roster control. No, all right." And just takes a vase and just slams it on the ground. He's like, you still want me to coach? Yep. Oh, I'm kick this chair over. What do you want me to do now? Oh, you're fired. All right, great. I'm leaving.
Okay.
I think
Yeah, that's all it rolls.
I think talking about coaches, I think Peterson ends up as the Jets head coach.
I've heard talk of Robert Saleh, but again, it's the New York Jets right now is one of the hotter coaching jobs available, considering what I said earlier about an hour ago about Shad Khan, about wanting full control of the Jaguars in terms of who they hire and whatnot and what kind of staff they want to bring in. But for the New York Jets, I wouldn't be surprised the reason Saleh left MetLife Stadium or the Meadowlands in general, whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't be surprised he left, considering the Johnsons were too metal about the whole situation, and they were just kind of just meddling along, and they were just saying, okay, Mr. Douglas, we're going to give you full control of everything that you're going to do as the general manager, because every Jets fan I know, specifically down here, are all blowing on Joe Douglas like he's the second coming of Christ. Like, they think he's their equivalent of Brandon Beane, and they think, oh, they're in good hands against Joe Douglas. It's like, I get so tired of hearing his name. Joe Douglas, Joe Douglas, Joe Douglas. It's like, shut up. Just hire a fucking coach, because all you're doing is just jerking off on Robert Saleh. And then you say, oh, I want Eric Bieniemy. And then you say, oh, I want Joe Brady. Oh, I want Brian Dable. Oh, the Jets are in very good position. And it's like, oh, why are you so excited? And it's like, oh, they have draft capital. They have the salary cap. They have this. They have that. And I'm like, you still suck no matter what you do.
I wouldn't want to take that Jets job right now, and I definitely wouldn't take Jacksonville. But I have to. But I know we covered this a little bit last week, and when we talked about Doug Marrone taking the $5 million going to Jacksonville, I'm like, that turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to us, honestly, because Marrone's a mediocre coach. He didn't do much at Syracuse except for make them like a 500 team. He barely did anything with the Bills, and when ownership ends up changing because Ralph Wilson died, he's like, oh, give me the money. The money's more important. Oh, I'm going to get the New York Jets job. I'm already a shoo-in for them. And then when it turned out he didn't get the New York Jets job, it's like, oh, well, I'll settle for Jacksonville instead. And then of course he was referred to as Saint Doug around here because he thought he was like the second coming. And Doug did absolutely zero for this team in a lot of ways. What ends up happening? Of course, you end up drafting Marcel Darius. What happens? You end up with the biggest screw up on salary cap, and he's not even in the league right now. I mean, what is that
Darius?
for 99? No, for Darius.
So here's what I'll say. Why I think Dable goes to the Chargers and why I think Peterson goes to the Jets. Peterson goes to the Jets because Joe Douglas was just a few years ago in the front office of Philadelphia. They have that connection. They've worked together recently. And you don't quit. It's the Philadelphia situation is weird because like you just won a Super Bowl 3 years ago. Granted, Howie Roseman has not done a fantastic job with that roster because they've lost a lot of talent and then didn't replenish that talent. And then you go ahead and you draft with Jalen Ragnar or whatever, and Justin Jefferson is still on the board. Like absolutely a horrid job at drafting.
Yeah,
I don't think Doug Peterson was the issue with the Eagles. I think Dable, if he leaves, because there's still a chance that he may stay. I mean, it looks a lot better on your resume if you can say that you helped develop Josh Allen and then won a Super Bowl. But I say that Dable is more likely to go to the Chargers because Tom Telesco, the general manager of the Chargers, is a Buffalo, New York native. They went to high school together.
That's very true.
So they both have that massive connection going back. Also, they didn't cross paths, but when Tom Telesco was first starting out in the NFL, fun fact, he did work for the Buffalo Bills. So I think that's probably why I think that the connection going all the way back to high school is probably why Dable goes, if he goes anywhere, I say it's to the Chargers because of that connection. And if Peterson goes anywhere, I think you don't quit that job in Philadelphia unless you have something set up. and I think the most likely place is the Jets. Because I mean, like, he was in New York immediately after he got fired from Philadelphia. Like, the man probably fired in his car on the way up to New York at that point in time. So
they probably had it all prearranged and everything else. I mean,
yeah. So I just don't. I see that's where those two are going. And again, Eric Saleh has been the most sought after, and him being a Michigan native, Detroit has been hammering the drum for him to go up to Detroit and bring some sort of relevancy to the Lions. But it's just weird that Eric Bieniemy gets so much credit for quote unquote developing Patrick Mahomes, which he really didn't. There's no developing Patrick Mahomes. Like, that's just who he is.
Right. Part of the Andy Reid coaching tree.
But so that's the thing too, is like people are saying that Eric Bieniemy may go another coaching rotation without getting a job. And one of the questions is the history of the Andy Reid coaching tree. But the history of the Andy Reid coaching tree, except for Nagy up in Chicago, is relatively good. Sean McDermott being one of those coming off of that tree. Like, it's
one of the best records.
It's a fantastic tree. So I don't know what the problem. Like, is Bieniemy just not a good interview? Like, is he just going in there and like completely shitting the bed on these interviews? Like, everybody talks about how he's one of the best offensive coordinators in football, and then the man doesn't get a job last year and is rumored to not be getting a job this year. So it's super weird when it comes to these openings and vacancies.
Right. And then talking about Matt Nagy, I mean, there's speculation now that he's out, depending on everything.
Matt Nagy did not get fired. I watched that press conference. They're giving him one more year.
Yeah, they're giving both the head coach and the GM another year, which, hey.
Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are staying put. So the Chicago Bears fired Matt Nagy story was utter bullshit. So I'm just going to put it at that.
And it's not like the Bears are bad. Like, they have talent on that team on both sides of the ball.
Right. I mean,
Trubisky just isn't it.
They've been worse than prior years.
They were the worst 8-0 team. Like, they literally went undefeated in the beginning of the season. They were clearly doing something right.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely not the worst team in football by any means.
I don't know, man. It's the NFL. Every Sunday is a different Sunday.
Very true.
Yeah. I think another team that has a very interesting coaching search is the Atlanta Falcons, because there was one story that came out today that said that they were going to hire the executive from the New Orleans Saints. I forget his name. And then along with that, they were going to bring in Panthers offensive coordinator. No.
Wasn't it Ken Campbell or something like that?
No, it wasn't. It was Joe Brady. It was somebody on the Saints that was an executive. He was going to go to the Falcons, and then Joe Brady was going to leave Carolina and be the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. And then earlier today, I read a report that the Atlanta Falcons are the favorites to give the job to Titans offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. So there's a lot of talk about Smith being the next head coach and then Joe Brady being the next head coach. So there's a mixed bag of who exactly is going to get the Falcons head coaching job.
The guy's name is Terry Fontenot, is one or two or three finalists for the Falcons GM job. So that's for the GM job, but that's the New Orleans Saints guy.
Yeah. Well, I heard Joe Shewan is a finalist, but I don't know how true that is.
The Falcons, I don't know what they're doing. Again, let's go back to let's take everything we said about the Steelers and apply it to the Falcons. Matt Ryan should have retired 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. They're doing what the Bills did for the majority of the 2000s. They have this big ship with a bunch of different sized holes in it, and they're trying to plug the big holes, and they're forgetting about the small ones. The Bills traded for Drew Bledsoe to bring in a quarterback, but didn't give him an offensive line or any weapons. Then they let Drew Bledsoe go, and then you bring in Marshawn Lynch because you think having 18 running backs on this team somehow makes them good, and you can win a Super Bowl. And you neglect the quarterback spot, and you neglect the wide receivers, and you neglect the defense. And then you bring in Marcel Darius, and you think that Marcel Darius is going to fix the entire team.
Oh, God, no.
That's what they've been doing with – that's every move Atlanta has made. They bring in Todd Gurley because they think that putting 3 RB1s around Matt Ryan is going to make him not look like a washed-up quarterback. The man should have retired like 8 years ago.
Yeah. Sean, just curious, have you been to a Falcons game?
I have not. And I was
Why
hoping
wouldn't he
that
go?
when the Bills and Falcons were to play this season, it would be down here, but it's up in Buffalo.
I know that, but I'm just asking a general question.
Yeah, I know. No, I've never been to a Falcons game. I might
Would you
go
ever
to one.
consider?
Yeah, I might go to one this coming season.
Well, if they allow fans in, which I'm sure they will, but
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting. But we'll see. I mean, the Detroit Lions is going to be an interesting conversation too, because I read a report from the Catch the Blitz that there's some sort of interest between Brian Dable and the Lions. So I don't know how accurate that is, that the Lions have interest in Dable, because I don't see how that's going to be an attractive spot anyway. I mean, somebody has to take the fall to go to Detroit. Somebody has to.
I don't see it being a fit for Dayball, actually. I mean, logically, I just don't think is somewhere he would go. I mean, as Ryan mentioned earlier, he has the connections with the Chargers organization. I mean, if he goes anywhere, I think that's going to be the landing spot for him. And he has actually a pretty good up-and-coming team in the Chargers as well. So they have some good pieces in place. And if Dayball can maximize their talents, I mean, he could turn the Chargers into a powerhouse out in the West. So, I mean, it's very possible. At the same time, he could opt to stay here also. I mean, when New England, when they were successful, I mean, look at how they kept their coordinators forever and ever. And then, of course, everyone remembers the whole issue with Denver when they were nailed for cheating. And of course, everyone remembers that.
I don't want to label. Yeah, I don't want to label Detroit though as like not being. I think it's just because it's been so irrelevant for so long that it's not considered like a hot place to be. But they have talent on that team. Like Matthew Stafford is hands down one of the most resilient and still talented quarterbacks in this league.
Bad QB. I mean, he has a good skill set.
They have DeAndre Swift. They have a couple of at running back. They have a couple of good running backs. They have a couple of good wide receivers as well. So it's not like the offense is that bad. I don't know anything about their defense or special teams, so I can't talk on it. But like I know that their offense isn't that bad. So it's not like it's not like they're a horrible place to go. It's just one of those cases of like they've been such a poverty franchise for so long that people forget. I mean, how many of us prior to this season with Alex Smith and Ron Rivera, even when we were thinking about football teams, even thought about Washington, like before everything blew up in Washington? We didn't, because they were an irrelevant franchise. Yeah. It's the same thing with the NHL. How many times do we think about the NHL and think about all the teams in Canada and ever include Calgary in that list? Absolutely never. You know why? Because Calgary is a poverty franchise.
But they're not a complete embarrassment, I'll say that. I mean, I like Calgary, but I'm just saying, like, I think that they're not utter garbage. I just think they need to be a bit more competitive. They don't hire the right people. That's what I think.
I'm just saying they're irrelevant because they have not been good for a long time. And so up until everything exploded and went negative in Washington and they got put under a microscope, we didn't pay attention to Washington. Which is very much the narrative with Detroit right now, is that, oh, well, Detroit's not a hot spot. Well, it's weird that they're not, because they have talent. Like, they have one of the best, most consistent quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, he was playing with like three different Matthew Stafford was playing with like three different injuries. They have the running backs, they have the offensive line, and they have the well, they don't necessarily have the best offensive line, could be better, but then they have the wide receivers too. So like, it is a good team. What was that, Tom?
Yeah, like for example, Golden Tate. I mean,
yeah, they have
players.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with Chicago. Like, they have a good team. They just can't execute.
Well, I can certainly tell you, Matthew Stafford is leaving. Stafford's going to leave in the end of the year because there's a rumor going around that he's going to request a trade and he wants to go to a Super Bowl contender.
I'm sure that he does, but I don't see Matthew Stafford being that type of person that requests a trade.
Well, I definitely know Matt Ryan is going to be requesting a trade eventually. I mean, I don't think he requests it verbally, but I think he is going to get traded to a team that's up and coming that could use his service. Someone like the Miami Dolphins, someone like the Indianapolis Colts, like those kind of teams could use Matt Ryan's service, but you never know with these things. These things could
up. You talking about Matt Ryan or Matt Stafford?
Right now, I'm talking about Matt Ryan. Matt Stafford.
Matt Ryan should have retired. There's no fixing that man. That man is done with football.
I don't think so.
Matt Ryan should have retired 4 years ago. I just got done saying they put a bunch of running backs around him to try and make it seem like he's not bad at football, and he just is.
Matt Ryan is not that washed up. I mean, he's 32, but it's not his fault that the Falcons have always surrounded him with guys like Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and then you have running backs like Devontae Freeman. I know they're going into a rebuild very soon, but to me, Matt Ryan is like the last big piece that they have for right now, because there is a lot of talk going into April that they're going to draft a quarterback.
Yeah, they
they're
absolutely
going to have
should.
to. I mean, Matt Ryan
move on from Matt Ryan. They should absolutely move on from Matt Ryan.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, even right now, also, I mean, the New Orleans Saints are going to be looking for a QB probably because most likely this is Drew Brees' last year.
Well, according to Sean Payton, Taysom Hill, to quote Bobby from most of tonight, Sean Payton thinks Taysom Hill is the next coming of Jesus Christ. So they're going to be perennially bad for the next however long it is, because you have Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara and still struggled to get by in games. I think anywhere Matthew Stafford goes, I think Indianapolis is a strong, because I don't think Phillip Rivers is a bad quarterback. Like statistically, he's a good quarterback, but like he's not the guy that you put in for the playoffs.
Right.
And clearly they're not sold on Jacoby Brissett, or else they would have kept him and not signed Phillip Rivers. So, like, go get Aaron Rodgers or go get Matthew Stafford. Right. I don't know anybody on the face of the planet that has more than half an IQ point that thinks that Carson Wentz should ever touch a football field ever again. But, like, a lot of people think that Carson Wentz should go to Indianapolis, and all of those people are wrong. There's absolutely no reason that Carson Wentz should have gotten paid the amount that he got paid out of that contract, for how long he got out of that contract. That is a Buffalo Sabres, Ville Lano type contract that he got that shouldn't have been handed out to him. It's absolutely ridiculous. Agreed. Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford are probably the two best quote unquote free agent quarterbacks, or quarterbacks that could be on the move realistically. Now, that being said, there should be a lot more quarterbacks that end up leaving where they're at. I think unless San Francisco puts an offensive line in front of Jimmy Garoppolo, I think Jimmy Garoppolo should find a new team to play for. I think Matt Ryan, not only do I think the Falcons should move on from Matt Ryan, I think Matt Ryan should have retired 4 years ago after their last Super Bowl run. I think that he should have been gone. I would be happy if Deshaun Watson left the Texans and not went to Miami. That would be fantastic. Send him somewhere else.
Oh, cool. Send him to the fucking Jets.
Not to the Jets. Dude, I don't. Is there? Okay, so like Bobby, you're more in tune with Jets fans. What are you hearing about Jets fans and Darnold? Because it seems like some people are like, absolutely move on from him, and then other people are like, absolutely, like, do not. Just bring in somebody that will actually be a good coach for him.
Okay, so to give you an idea about this fucking clown show in MetLife Stadium, because I have a lot of connections to the Jets, right. I could certainly tell you that a lot of Jets fans that I personally know have mixed feelings about this. One side says trade Darnold because you're going to end up taking Justin Fields or Luke or Zach Wilson, whoever's available, or you keep Darnold but just bring in more talent. Because if you're going to trade Sam Darnold, your best chance is to Indianapolis, bring him to Pittsburgh, bring him somewhere where he can at least develop behind a good offensive line. So that's the argument there. And they really believe this too, that they're going to get a first-round pick for Sam Darnold. That's how stupid these people are. They really believe that. What I was going to say was too is that because I also mentioned earlier that the Jets have all the draft capital in the world and the cap space, as they love to brag about so much because they think somehow Captain Fat Fuck, who's the general manager of the New York Jets, he thinks because he's the director of player personnel, he thinks that, well, these people think that he's Jesus and he's just going to make the Jets magically good again. It's like, that's not how this works. But no, in all seriousness, a lot of Jets fans have high hopes. They really do. They think that whoever they hire as the next coach, he's going to be amazing. And they also think that they can get Juju Smith-Schuster. They also think they can get Allen Robinson. And they also think they can get Trevor Lawrence at second overall. So Jets fans have a lot of mixed feelings about what's going on right now. It's like they don't think with these people. These people don't think.
Yeah,
and it's like today, like I was saying, oh, they're going to get Robert Saleh. He's amazing. And then they find out he's going to Philadelphia. Oh, we'll get Eric Bieniemy. Oh, but he might not even get a head coaching job. Oh, we're going to get Matt Eberflus, the head defensive coordinator for the Colts. Oh, well, he might stay in Indianapolis. Oh, we're going to get Brian Daboll. I don't know. He might stay in Buffalo. Oh, we might get Jim Caldwell. See, everything when things don't go their way, they jump on the next bandwagon,
right.
And that's what they often do.
Well, watch. Here's the hilarious thing: if the Jets fans, if the Jets were to do a Jetsy thing, they'd probably end up hiring Matt Patricia and they'll think, oh, this is going to be the greatest thing ever known to mankind, because they'd probably be that stupid.
I think that. Oh, excuse me. I think that Darnold to Pittsburgh absolutely makes the most sense, but I also have mixed feelings about it too, because like you could move on from him, but then you have to start over with a new quarterback, and you're essentially admitting that you sucked. When you move on from a quarterback, that's typically the sign of a rebuild. You don't move on from your quarterback. That's the position on the field where like one guy's out there at a time. So, I don't know. I feel like if you bring in, I think their best bet would be to hard sell and bring in a guy like Eric Bieniemy, who worked with Patrick Mahomes and potentially had something to do with some sort of a development, and bring in a guy like that. Obviously, Adam Gase, not a quarterback developer. I think anybody with the brain could have told you that. But I don't know. I you could also see the Jets are the Jets, right? So you could end up just moving on from Sam Darnold. He ends up in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh ends up is a good contender again for the playoffs continually for the next couple decades or so, because Tomlin can actually develop a quarterback versus whatever the hell they had going on with Gase. But that being said, I also think that they could just throw more talent around him and actually bring in somebody that can develop a quarterback, and Darnold would be fine.
No, but the problem is that Jets fans firmly think that they still see some sort of beacon of light in Darnold. But they, at the same time, they don't want to pass up on Justin Fields. So if the Jets are smart, if they really do believe in building around Darnold, as they advertise him to be this amazing quarterback, he's been on the team for 3 years and has done absolutely nothing.
He's seen ghosts.
He's seen ghosts, basically. He has a bad offensive line. And every time, and one thing, too, is that if you talk about the Jets, they get so offended by it. Like, if you're a fan of the Patriots or the Bills or the Dolphins or any other division rival, if you go up to a Jets fan right now and you say to them that the Jets suck and they have all these assets, they're going to say, you're a fucking moron. You don't know shit about football. It's true. It's true. They do it all the time. Yeah, so I guess that's all I have to say. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Or
I mean, we can go forever, but I'm getting tired. So
yeah, because you don't shut up. That's why.
Thank you.
Actually, I think we covered a lot of good stuff tonight, and I mean, with everything, Sabres and Capitals, I mean, that'll be Thursday night at 7 tomorrow night. So
we can basically hear Ryan talk about how big his nuts are for 3 hours, and I'll be listening to Animal Farm by George Orwell on Audible.com. You'll be like, yeah, my balls are so big. Yeah, I have a little bit of hair, and I think if I just jerk off in the toilet a little bit longer, as long as I go like this, I think there's potential there.
It'll be interesting to see game 1 though, and see what the line combos do, especially knowing that it was a shortened training camp and everything. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. That's for sure.
And then, actually, I was gonna say over under. If I were to throw something in my TV based on how bad they play, what would you take? Over 10 minutes or less than 10 minutes in?
I give it about 5 minutes.
I think you're gonna see something reminiscent of the Cleveland-Pittsburgh game, where they're gonna like opening face-off. They're gonna tap the puck. It's gonna go straight through Jack's legs, straight through whoever the starting goaltender's legs are, it's going to register for a solid 14 goals off of the one we lose the game in the first opening 3 seconds of the quarter.
So you're thinking less than a minute in, I'll probably be going ballistic at something.
Dude, I told you I'm going to hate watch 56 games of this, and then I'm going to have Sabres Twitter tell me that none of it is Jack Eichel's fault. Absolutely not one single thing is Jack Eichel's fault. I've already gotten hate because as soon as I brought back the Jack Eichel's not a leader thing, I tweeted it, already getting some pushback on the Twitterverse.
Oh boy. All right. Sean, anything you want to throw in before we take off for the night?
Honestly, not really, except like just a little wrestling. Royal Rumble is this month, so looking forward to that.
Oh, when is it?
It's later this month. Let me get the exact date.
Why are you wearing a jacket inside your room?
Because I felt like it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it'll take place on the very last day of January.
January 31st?
Yep.
Oh, goody, just a week before the Super Bowl. And if anybody gives a shit, it's 5-0 Lightning with 3:15 to go in the third period. They're killing the Lightning. I mean, the Blackhawks, excuse me.
That reminds me, Corey Crawford retired this week.
Who gives a fuck? Okay, no, actually, no, I should give a fuck. I wish him all the best.
Yep. Yeah.
Hey, here's the Bobby not being a dick.
It's a rarity.
Yeah, I mean, are you really that surprised?
Yes, because Corey Crawford was a mediocre goalie at best with major health and injury issues.
Yeah, a mediocre goalie who won 2 Stanley Cups.
Hey, more than any of us. There we go. But hey, you want a dick, so I'm proud of you.
Oh, I want a dick? My dick is bigger than yours, okay? And we could just measure it with just a measuring stick. How about that?
I don't want to know how you know that.
I don't either, but it works.
Yep, for sure. Well, we'll definitely, on the next show, I mean, we'll definitely talk a little bit about first couple games of the season with the Sabres. We'll talk about the playoffs, obviously, and then it's going to get interesting because if the Bills get past the Ravens this weekend, and we go into the conference finals, then it's going to get very interesting because I would love to see us go against Kansas City again. I would love to see that happen. And
I think if we get to that point, we beat Kansas City.
We actually have some breaking news. There's actually, according to Pro Football Talk, there's speculation that Urban Meyer is on the verge of taking the Jacksonville Jaguars head coaching job, and the general manager is being speculated to be 49ers former general manager Trent Baalke.
Oh, God, Baalke screwed up that team.
Hey, good for Urban Meyer for being out of the NFL in the next 3 years.
Yeah. Be like Steve Spurrier when he resigned from the Washington football team when he played with them.
Washington games.
Yeah, I still wonder how that worked out for Nick Saban and Bobby Petrino.
Bobby Petrino and Nick Saban both sucked in the NFL. Oh,
because college football coaches do not translate well to the NFL.
Some of them did, some of them don't.
Most don't.
Meyer does.
Yeah. Or even if you look at other sports, I mean, Rick Pitino did absolutely crap in the NBA, but he's a great college coach. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it goes either way. But, all right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. And of course, we can see you, Ryan Brovey at Union Sports. And, of course, you're welcome on any time, and we'll jump on with you at some point, too. And, of course, Sean, you got your new page up and running. How's that going?
Decided to just stick with one page and whatnot. Just keep things simple. So I'm just staying on Instagram, but I started doing Let's Plays on my YouTube channel. The recent Call of Duty Modern Warfare game. So I'm loving that so far. But yeah, that's it.
Very cool. And Bobby, you little piece of crap bragging about your PlayStation 5.
Wow, you just called me a piece of crap.
All right. Yeah. How is that PlayStation 5 so far?
It is absolutely glorious. I'll say that right now. I am playing games like Ballsack Boys, Big Adventure, Fall Guys. I love Ryan.
You say Ballsack Boys?
Sort of sounded like that.
No, okay. The name of the character's name is Sackboy from Little Big Planet, but I always called him Ball Sack Boy. I know.
I'm putting my head back down.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So anyway, Madden NHL, The Forest, Red Dead, GTA, you name it. I'm playing all those games again. My favorite of all, Spider-Man. I'm playing that too. So yeah, it's good. So I don't think I'm gonna do a review on it. I'm planning to do a video on my channel very soon. I just don't want to. I don't know what the topic's gonna be yet.
Cool. Well, we'll definitely have to keep an eye out for it. So, and then of course, with everything, tune in next week. We'll go over some hockey news. Of course, we'll talk more about the NFL playoffs, and actually we're going to be getting closer to XFL season. So, of course, Bobby, we'll be able to talk about that a little bit more.
XFL. Oh yeah, that's in 2022, guy. You have another calendar year.
Oh yeah, that's right. Next year.
Go Guards.
Okay, I'm thinking about it. You're
Guardians.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time.
All right. Until next time, fuck off.